The old man will. The old man will. The old man will. The old man builds. The old man builds is broken in the head. People not seeing reality has put them in the red. Where conscious and spirituality restricted from the norm and replaced with the ignorance of basic magnetic form. The geometry of God keeps running through his head. That's what makes old man builds broken in the head. The old man builds. The old man builds. Spheres of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to instead. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nathan, otherwise known as Old Man Builds. We have 8 Center here with me. We also have Joe here with me. Guys, we've got a rocking show today, man. We're going to talk about orgonites today. So, without ado, guys, how's it going?
Not too bad.
Hey, Nathan. Hey, 8 Center. What's going on, everybody?
Nice to see you.
Right on, yeah. So, would you mind telling us real quick what we're talking about today? What's an orgonite?
Okay, orgonite. There's 2 definitions of an orgonite. There's what the internet thinks it is and what it's really all about. So most of the internet will put you onto Wilhelm Reich, who apparently discovered this in like the 60s, 70s. He was working under Freud for a lot of years. And for the most part, what he discovered is accurate, but there's a whole lot of other things going on, more advanced, that he didn't quite see. And what it basically does, orgone energy, what he called sexual energy, is orgone energy, is chi energy. It is etheric life force potential energy. It has no direction until you give it direction, and it has no purpose until you give it purpose.
Okay.
So orgonite is used to amplify, to heal, to manifest. Depending what you want to use it for, it can be adapted for that.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Okay, so the orgon itself is the type of energy that's being described, and the orgonite is sort of the material in which is actually accumulating and directing it based on your causes, more or less what you're saying with that?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
So the actual chi energy, Tesla called that scalar energy. And if you want to bring that image up, Nathan.
Yep, absolutely.
That's his description of it. Okay, the convergence of 2 identical electromagnetic frequencies, EMF, from 2 opposite directions produce scalar energy. The cancellation of free movements in these EMF keeps them in one place. Scalar energy is stationary energy. The concentration of SE, scalar energy, provides the health benefits when one comes close to it. That's his description. And it's pretty much right. In the simplest terms, all you need to make scalar energy and give it direction is a bifilar coil in a figure S shape.
Bifilar coil and a figure S shape. Okay.
Does the coil have to be in the figure S, or does the energy have to flow in a figure S?
See, the way it works is electrons, well, everybody knows electrons are shooting off ions. It's the ions that trigger the movement. So simultaneously, 2 electrons hitting both ends of the coil will amplify themselves through the coil, hit themselves in the middle, and then they only have one direction to go from there, which is out perpendicular to the directional flow of energy that went in.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you have an S-shaped coil, energy always wants to move clockwise. That's our bioorganic rhythm, to move clockwise. So if it's in the right direction, it'll move where you want it, clockwise, coming out of the S. And there's an image of a coil I sent you there as well. If you Type in 2022. That's actually a dual coil I put in there. That's the only image I had. But that image is shooting scalar energy into the viewer. And if you put your left hand over it, you'll actually feel that. So the ion,
right, yeah, you can see the clockwise flow to that.
Yeah. So the ions are triggering the electron movement within that, and then it's spitting out towards the viewer from the middle. That's what you need for a scalar directional vortex to be created. It is super simple.
Okay. Does this have to be in 3D or just flat?
It's functioning in 3D, but the coil has to be flat.
Okay.
When you put that inside a pyramid, that's when you get all sorts of magical other effects to amplify it and do the programming for the orgonite. So
what is it about the pyramid shape that works in conjunction with this particular coil that leads to the amplification?
Okay, so if you think about it again in terms of the ions triggering movement of the electrons, simultaneously you have the bottom left, the top right corners, and the top left and the bottom right corners are running up in, if you think of each of those corners as angles, those angles meet at the tip. So each angle is triggering electron movement towards the tip. So you've got two collisions happening at the same time, which, because of the vortex inside the pyramid created by the coil, are spitting off again in a clockwise direction from the tip.
Okay.
Well, let me ask you this. In a bipolar Tesla coil, would this be the null zone then?
I think so. I'm still trying to get up the speed with the Tesla coil stuff, but I think so.
Okay.
It does represent a null zone. It represents a plane, where if now obviously we've already established, right, this is going clockwise, right? Now if you were to actually take this and hold it, straight across and look at it from the bottom, then it's counterclockwise. You see, so it represents like the plane in the center of the Tesla coil where the rotational vortices, go the opposite way.
Okay.
So when you view it and it looks like it's going two different ways, it's actually just going the same way, but from a top and bottom view, right? So this kind of it represents that transition between the directional flow difference.
Well, that's the way the bipolar Tesla coil works. It's all the same direction winding, but it flows in different directions.
Exactly right. So if you wanted to call this, it would, as the transitional point, would be more or less like the event horizon. That's where your null zone would be in the Tesla coil. So it would be analogous.
And the reason it flows from the bottom to the top is because of the ionization of the atmosphere. The negative ions from the Earth, even if there's concrete in the way, there's still going to be a charge between flat Earth and the sky. You can't change that. So it's always going to flow up, like naturally.
Okay.
I mean, you can turn a pyramid upside down and it's going to get some weird shit going on, but we'll get into that maybe.
Yeah. It was like the weird stuff.
Yeah, right. That makes sense, because if you manipulate the directional propagation of the natural flow of the output, because and correct me if I'm wrong, but a pyramid shape is always going to coalesce at the apex of the top, as far as the highest energy densities, and therefore it would be inclined generally to propagate in that direction.
Yeah. Well, there's things that go on inside as well. As the propagation travels up these angles, they're causing ripples on the inner face, and those ripples on the inner face all converge like stones on a pond into one central core. That central core by itself also spits off its own energy into the center. And according to Joe Parr's research, it's not quite 51.83 degrees. He had it down to like 26 degrees for the epicenter. So there's two academic perspectives on where the epicenter of the pyramid's energy is, but it's basically dead center.
Okay, so now let me ask you: when this coil is alone and unto itself, would you consider this in itself orgonite, or would you consider this like an orgone accumulator?
This is just a vortex creation. The orgonite is a process by itself. You don't need this coil to get it if it's in a pyramid shape, because the pyramid shape's going to do the same job, but the coil just speeds it up. But this is the easiest way to do it. You could put strips of wool blanket and wire wool on top of this, and that would be an orgonite. Even if it's not in pyramid shape, it just sitting there will do the job.
So you have this accumulating and generating the spiral. You have the organic wool, and then you have the non-organic layer of the wire mesh.
Now, what he didn't quite figure out was this has been done for thousands of years. If you look at all the mounds in different places, especially Ireland, England, most of those are actually made with alternating layers of materials. But
that's true, right? They used to have all the like you said, like the mounds. They used to build their houses and stuff like that just under the surface.
They used to layer magnetite and quartz. It's the same thing.
That's interesting. I've seen a lot of these on the rock carvings that they have there on the outside. The same look.
Yeah, if you put your hand on those rock carvings, you'll get downloads. They're all programmed with information in the rocks at the crystal level.
Oh, really?
And they did that through resonance.
Ooh, so they said that most of these things, if you build the house with stones in it and then the covering on the top, that they resonate like a chamber in there. Is that correct?
Yeah, most of them do. Some of them are damaged, but almost all the natural spaces, they were tuned to 110 hertz.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, I'm like drawn in real. I see this stuff everywhere. I never knew what it was.
It's all connected.
Yeah, have some, just old Celtic, spiral symbolism.
Yeah, I suspect there's some kind of biogeometric magic going on, but I don't know all of them.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time showing it, but
a lot of cool stuff out there. Okay, so if we want to dive back into the orgonite functional properties.
Okay.
You were describing their Wilhelm Reich's version. It's organic and inorganic. It's a little more complicated and a little more simple than that. It's paramagnetics and diamagnetics.
Okay.
If you think about it like that, and then you look at Schauberger's work, what does Schauberger say about vortexes in water? Energy in the water has to go spiraling down, and as it's spiraling down, it's cutting the magnetic lines of the Earth.
Okay.
Right? Orgonite is the exact same thing, upside down. The paramagnetic and diamagnetic layers are creating perpendicular cuts against the energy, the scalar potential energy, which creates that filter effect. The more layers you have, the cleaner the energy output's going to be.
Okay, so I get what you're saying now, like in a more whole fashion. So to go back to what you originally were saying about the ionizing properties of the electrons creating the movement, and that movement creating the flow. It's that flow and that flow pattern that is kind of self-sustaining in the same way that like a vortex is, because it works off of the same principles of the magnetic and dielectric planes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. Sure. That's very cool.
There's a lot of sides to it, and it's almost hidden because it's so simple, but nobody's actually looking at the big picture. Everybody's looking at one spot, and they're not looking at everything else. You have to put everybody's work together to make sense of it. And that includes Schauberger, that includes Walter Russell, Tesla, all the greats.
What I think is going to really be exposed through this interview is really how the same exact principles that are being really defined and found here right now is a lot of the same principles that we talk about when addressing like the latest cell technologies, between the layering of materials and just and even how like Mike said about how his cell with the magnesium graphite was getting back EMF in it, and was undergoing like different forms of quantum tunneling and stuff like that. It's all sort of analogous and related, I think. So I think the closest we've come to having this discussion is really in terms of like how those cells operate, which is super interesting because objectively we know that those cells function. So it really takes the woo out of this subject a lot.
I know there's definitely a connection there, but I haven't quite figured out what that connection is yet. I
think that the connection has to do with the relationship and layering of the materials, and how each material has its own properties and also its interactive properties and how they work in conjunction with each other. I think that that's sort of how it goes.
Well, I can tell you how they work at the scalar etheric level, because I use about 9 different materials in each block of materials. So I've got 9 or 10 crystals that I normally stick to, and about 9 or 10 metals that I normally stick to. And if I break that down simply, gold, silver, and copper are known as the noble metals. They are the healing ones. The Anunnaki history, it's kind of messed up. And the way I look at it, most things in the public eye are left as rabbit holes for you to figure out. Mm-hmm. And the whole story behind the Anunnaki is like one of the weirdest, trippiest ones. But they weren't as bad as everybody thinks. And they did leave certain teachings specifically about these noble metals being very, very important for Earth. And I know that copper, there's some kind of connection between the speed of light and copper and the speed of sound, but I don't know the details on that. But gold is said to be the same in a different way. Professor Ibrahim Karim speaks of that in biogeometry. He goes more onto the gold side. And then silver, it's equally as valued in our modern and historical societies. So they're all very important. Now, I'm not working with gold and I'm not working with silver. Copper is the main thing.
Okay.
And it has, in etheric terms, it has a certain speed to it. It's not super quick, but it's quite quick. Steel and iron is faster, but it's a little bit harsher. Brass is a little bit softer and a little bit slower. So compared to gold, gold has a nice speed, it has a nice feel, and you need to kind of balance other metals in order to try and recreate that as close as you can. So I've got different ratios of different metals in mine to try and do that.
That's interesting. Something you said, something you just said, kind of raised a way that I understand it, and I don't know if this is going to be helpful for anybody, but I think that at a basic level, it may be difficult to understand the difference between being fast and effective, but being harsh, so to speak, as opposed to being like fast and effective and being smooth and more effective. You know, when I used to shave with a straight razor back when, and I used to do all my own sharpening and restoration work, right? Certain types of steel would take an edge, right? Where it would get extraordinarily sharp. Like you could literally split a hair in two with it or pop it off without any pressure against the blade whatsoever. But on the skin, the way that it felt on the skin in those circumstances, sometimes it was a little bit rash, a little bit harsh on the skin, you know, whereas you'd have something just as sharp, but some types of steel were just more forgiving like that, and it would almost be smooth, you know. And it's interesting because the level of sharpness was both there, but the way that it felt against the skin in that circumstance was effectively significantly different. And that's the best comparison I could kind of draw to that, to kind of, you know, maybe somebody's had that experience before where their razor, even just a regular razor, is shaving, it's cutting the hair, but it doesn't feel nice. It doesn't feel right? But then you know, you have a new one or a different one, and it goes right through, and it's smooth as a baby's bottom, sort of like that.
And if you're sensitive the way you are and I am, you can feel that without even shaving. You can feel it just holding it.
Yeah.
I have a little different take on it. It's the impedance in the energy, how fast it can travel. It's the steel will slow it down and cog it and create a very harsh feel. The actual gold won't. The silver won't do that as much as well. The copper does. So there are some relationships in there on the values that you get, and it makes a difference when you're looking at something that's built with geometry involved in it and how much that impedance matters to you and the flow rate of it.
Yep. And I control that in two ways. The first is controlling the proportions of metals in there. The second is the size of them. So I also have key shavings in mine, which are, comparatively speaking, ginormous compared to the iron oxide I used. It's 0.1 micron. So each material size triggers different atomic effects. I can't really quite put that into words. I've just found a nice balance and I stick to it.
So basically, the smaller the material that you're using to form the material, you know, it would have a higher density at that point. You know, it could pack nicer, right? So, you know, I guess the size makes a big difference. Now, do you find that having a consistent grade, so to speak, of material that you're using to form this matters, or is there a different or better or worse effect if you have some differentiation of the particle size?
I have a multitude of different sizes in there. So I've got like 0.1 micron in the red iron oxide. The black iron oxide is about 1 micron. The key shavings are probably between 60 and 100. Copper is like 1 to 5, 1 to 3. I've got 2 different types of copper in there. I've got iron filings. Again, they're probably about 50, 60. So I've got large and small in both.
Okay, now when you're putting the material together, Are you making it as homogeneous as possible? Are you layering it per material and size, or are you are you trying to account for some kind of natural settling that would occur that would bring some of the bigger, denser particles, to a certain layer?
It's closer to the way I see it is density. So if you've got a large barrel and you throw in a load of marbles and then you throw in sand, you've got different particle sizes taking up different amounts of space.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get as much in there as possible, but in a balanced way.
Okay. That makes total sense. Okay.
It's extremely thick. It's extremely heavy. I mean, one of my last big pyramids is like 17 kilo.
Oh, wow.
It's very heavy.
How big was that pyramid?
12 inch. I've got images on there Nathan can bring up as well. There's 3 pyramids with a lighter and an apple for scale. They're 12, 10.
Yeah, that's very heavy for it. So the base is 12 inches. Yeah, very heavy.
There's a lot in there. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of the orgonites online, you'll see, they're mostly air. There's nothing in them.
Yeah, so that's I assume you're using resin as a binder.
Yeah.
Right. So the resin content is probably less than your material content at that point.
Kind of.
So on the bottom, is it stone and the top stone?
The outside layer there is limestone.
Okay.
Okay. I sent you an image. If you bring up image 20230221, there you go. That one there.
Okay.
Okay.
You can see there the outside layer. It's just one thing, and then all the layers inside. But you'll notice the tip of the inner pyramid fits exactly into the tip of the outer pyramid.
Right. That's the critical factor is having that geometry correct, I would suppose.
For me, yeah. If everything, the way the pyramids work, that epicenter creates a black hole. And all the energy and all the programming I put into the inner pyramid is being amplified in that inner tip. And that tip is being amplified again on the outside in that outer tip.
Okay. And what's the difference in the material from the inside to the outer shell?
The outer shell is limestone. Same way the pyramid is built.
So hold on. You said vortex at the top. So since there's 2 tips, is there an inner and outer vortex?
No, because the limestone acts as your insulator, etherically speaking. Now, what I discovered, I call it the boundary effect. In a normal orgonite pyramid that doesn't have an outside insulating layer, the energy is being pulled in from the sides. It gets stuck on the face, and then it climbs the face and gets entangled into the vortex coming out of the tip, if that makes sense. It's like a mist getting pulled into the tip.
Okay.
So when you put everything inside the limestone, that sideways energy, it's not there. The only vortexial movement is from the bottom to the top.
Okay.
There's nothing sideways, and no sideways interference at all.
And the vortex, is that up or down? It's up, right?
It's going up, yeah.
Okay.
It's going up and down because it'll pull into the center of the inner pyramid and then push out again. Yeah, that's where your black hole part comes in.
Yeah. So movement like that would ultimately, lead to a form of like, reverberation and resonance in that geometry. So that would have an amplifying effect. Yeah, neat.
So it's
Not to mention if
resonating.
you're talking scalar. You know,
Yeah.
if you're bringing scalar in and it's being bombarded by other scalar of the same native frequencies, then you have collapsing events that would be occurring.
You have physical reverberation from the faces, and you have the metaphysical in the layering, all coming together, and you've got the Casimir effect created by the resin compressing everything as well. So you've got compression and expansion going on at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah, that's neat. Now,
See,
okay,
it has to mirror the energetic system of the body. That's one of the reasons my pyramids are sentient.
so talk to us about that a little bit. I mean, so I obviously I would go out and say, you know, even if you buy professionally produced orgonite, you know, nobody other than you is really claiming that they're sentient. So, you know, what makes yours different, and, you know, what's the sentient aspect of that?
I'm not going to share that on here, just straight up front. That's from my book.
That's fair.
That was a secret given to me by the fairies, actually. They are the ones that got the information to me about how to make a connection to Gaia. And it's therefore Gaia that's actually picking the sentient body for the person to talk to.
Okay.
So they gave me that secret.
And you say that's in a book that you already put out or haven't put out yet?
No, I'm only like 100 pages in so far, but I'm currently writing it. This is like my third attempt.
Well, and if anybody was wondering why we had him on the subject, because we've been long waiting to talk about orgonites, it's because he's only 100 pages into his book on orgonites.
Oh, wow. I'm thinking, where can we get it right now? You know what I mean?
It's probably going to be about 800 pages.
Oh, wow.
But only 200 or 300 pages of that's going to be crystals. You know, so the rest is going to be different techniques and how to use them and how to make them and stuff like that.
So, in the more traditional sense of orgonite, since that's where we're going to stick with for the purposes of the interview, right? What's the relevance of crystals in your orgonite structure beyond just quartz and its you know, piezoelectric effects?
Okay, so I've mentioned this in the stream a couple of times, and you've spoken about it a couple of times in different ways. The law of dominant frequencies. You know that one, right?
Well, why don't you tell us?
It's when you expose a field, a strong field, to a weaker field, the weaker field absorbs the stronger field, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's seen all over physics.
Yep.
No one's actually calling it a law, but it is.
Okay.
So when you are sick, and I'm going to use arbitrary numbers here, say your lung cells are not functioning at peak efficiency. So in vibratory terms, it's going to be oscillating with a smaller amplitude or a shorter wavelength.
Okay.
The way crystals work is they balance the offset. So if say your heart frequency is meant to be 256 and it's resonating 254, you need to find a crystal that resonates 258. So you've got that offset balance to bring things back to center. And it's the law of dominant frequencies because you need continuous exposure to it in order to create the effect. That's how crystals work. So every crystal has different atomic elements put in together into one composite final object. So when you're looking for a crystal to heal, this is why you're told to go into a shop in person and feel the one that speaks to you. It's because your body knows what you need and it recognizes the atomic structure needed to create the offset to bring whatever damaged cells back into harmony. Does that make sense?
It does. So it brings it into tune. It tunes your chakra when it's close in frequency but offset.
Yeah, it's like a spring tuner. And it's one of the reasons that you have as many different crystals in there as possible and as small as possible. The body knows how to extract information for what it needs. So the higher the chances, say I could put one quartz crystal in there, smash it up into powder, and it's only going to have the resonant totality of the final object, but all of those pieces will carry it. But if I have 20 crystals, I'm going to have 20 times more chance of getting the right frequency in those pieces. You follow that?
No, I perfectly get it. You're just a little out of balance, and it needs to self-correct. So,
yeah,
you see it when you build out fields, like you said. It literally one pulls off of the other, and then it tries to achieve balance at all times.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same layering effect that Nathan's been discussing when you're talking about the gradient fields that are themselves but separate. They're gradient into each other, but there's transitional zones where it goes one to the next, but it puts out.
When they line up properly, you get a condensed
screen
field.
There, are you still there?
Yeah, and it properly sets each other and starts to thicken the outer field.
Yeah, so that's how things are balanced with the crystals. So I add as many crystals as possible in there to have the maximum potential of the right information being there for the body to extract later on.
Okay, and like what kind of crystals are some of your favorites to put in there?
Okay, favorites are Golden Healer. And there's a lot of quartz in there. Golden Healer is one of my favorites. It balances the feminine energies, which most people are lacking, even the women. You've got green quartz, which is good for the heart. You've got normal quartz, clear quartz, shungite. Shungite's an important one for electromagnetic smog. That's one of the bigger sellers of orgonite, is it balances the damage from electromagnetics.
Really?
And which one was that? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Shungite. It's a black, highly conductive stone found in Karelia. It's meteor stone.
Okay.
It at the quantum level, the Russians have done a whole ton of research on this. It balances out the quantum spin. And there's a image there I sent you, Nathan, shungite fullerene. You should have that. Can you bring that up on screen?
I'm just listening, man. I'm sorry. I'm like intrigued.
Yeah, no, I'm like definitely fascinated too. I mean, one thing that immediately came to mind for me with some of the crystals that you know might be helpful is both green and black tourmaline.
That's in there.
Yeah.
I actually use a mixed tourmaline batch. It's got the green, it's got the lemon, or the peachy sort of one. There's a few in there. But tourmaline's very good. It's good for absorbing energies.
I have a nice piece of chrysoprase, green quartz right there.
That's nice.
Yeah. Check out citrine carnelian.
Citrine's good. Ametrine, I use a lot of ametrine in mine. Okay, so the shungite fullerene, what's showing in the middle there is the atomic structure of fullerenes. It's like carbon, but it's a carbon ball. And what it does, it pulls in pollutants to the center of it, and it harmonizes them so that the quantum spin damage that's created by the EMFs that creates anti-clockwise spin in our fields is reversed back to the clockwise spin. Like I said, energy in our biorhythm wants to move in a clockwise direction. I don't know why that is, but it just is. So the shungite's a very important one in there to balance everything. That's on every layer.
Wow.
I want to write that one down, Nathan.
No, trust me, this is going in there. I'm just looking at the actual center figure right here. You have 6 sides and 5 sides.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at that as far as the geometry coil and the way it builds out.
Yeah, no, that's cool because it's a non-platonic solid, structure.
Yeah. Some in the academics would call it carbon-3 because it's a completely different lattice type.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to look up Buckminster Fuller, he was the one that discovered that, and then
carbon-3, isn't that what they try to do the age testing with because it's like it's radioactive and has like a measurable half-life.
I'm not aware of that.
No, I could be mistaken about that, and I always say that, but I think that's kind of the case. I think that there's a radioactivity, but maybe not in the bad sense of the way, but that's a measurable output of it. If you want to think about it that way, right? From the cellular level.
There's a lot of these things. The Russian military, I don't know if they still do it, but they used to carry shungite crystals for their water. They didn't use like chlorine tablets the way that the American military and everybody else does. They would use just shungite.
Really?
They pour their water through this. The fullerite itself absorbs the crap. And even if there's toxins in there, they get nullified, so they're not effective.
So hold on. This is like carbon when you put it through the filter, like in your fish tank or something. It's pulling out all the gunk.
It's similar, yeah. Activated charcoal. Only this stuff is like times 100.
Oh wow! Yeah, makes it even.
That's very cool.
Yeah,
very cool. And you're turning this. You're turning even the crystals into more or less dust to use because you said the finer the better.
Yep. I think it amplifies the Casimir effect as well.
Really? That's really interesting.
There's mainly 2 different types of resin. You can get polyester resin and epoxy resin. The polyester has a higher shrink compression rate when it dries, and it's the stronger stuff when it comes to the output. So that's what I use.
And the polyester resin is the same stuff that you could do, finishing on your woodworking with and stuff like that. It's no different than just, any old poly.
Well, it's more than that. It adds a layer of compression to the crystal.
Right. Well, the resin does too, but the resin shrinks also, but obviously not as much. I think that's what he's getting.
No, but you put any crystal under compression, and then it's producing a little more energy out of it than it would normally.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's exactly how it works in Orgonite.
Man, there's a lot more energy in these things than I ever thought there was, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, they're quite tangible. We'll get on the effects in a minute, I guess. If you want to get back into what other crystals are in there, it depends. I can do bespoke things for different people if they want certain things. Like Joe, you mentioned citrine and ametrine. Ametrine is a blend of citrine and amethyst, which is a good one for prosperity and the crown chakra. So it's good for balancing the sort of tangled web we weave when it comes to finances in our heads, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. Yeah, I have a piece of amethyst right here. That's smoky quartz and amethyst. So the levels of irradiation were different. But if you look at the top, you could actually see it's got the yellowish tinge to it. It's because there's a citrine portion of it too. So this one's got all 3. That's why I cut this one.
So hold on. Let me just ask you guys real quick. Are you telling me that the level of radiation changes the actual color and pigment of all of these quartz? Or does it change the structure? How is that part working?
Well, yeah, it works off of radiation and heat. So if you have irradiated quartz, it's usually smoky. So it's like a gray color. And then if it's irradiated more so, and in the presence of iron, ions, not like, iron in a raw state, iron ions, then it turns into amethyst, which is irradiated quartz with iron, right? But if you heat up then the irradiated amethyst naturally or artificially too, but naturally, then it turns into a citrine. So then it'll turn to yellow.
So hold on. I'm asking in the terms of this. The testicle will put out a scalar field. It'll also put out a radiant energy or radiation, if that's the way you want to see it. And depending on which one you put in the water when you're growing the crystal, it'll either structure it one way or it'll destructure it another way. So that's why I'm asking, is it that simple to change from one type to the next by using those simple elements in order to do it?
Well, geologically speaking, most things in the earth are made from heat and pressure and radiation. So in theory, a Tesla coil probably could impart that radiation, but it might take a long time. If you put it under heat and pressure, it'd probably speed it up.
Well, yeah, you put it in hot water when you start the process, so you're already getting heat in there. The Tesla coil itself will put out some heat, not as much though. Yes, it would take a long time, but I would looking more at the radiant field that comes out of it in order to change the process.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you want to set up that experiment and consider that it takes the Earth about 1,000 years to make the average quartz, you go right ahead.
Okay.
It might take a while though.
I was thinking more of a couple-day project or a week, not forever.
Well, I think the lab synthesis of like the pure quartz that they use, for electronics and the like, right? Like I'm pretty sure it's a months long project. I don't believe that it's years.
You know what though? It's a forward and backwards thing. If it creates it in this way, then those types of energies would work to be able to speak to it or to interact with it. You see what I'm saying? It already understands those energies. There's a memory there. Therefore, if we use the same energies, we can get in there and access it. At least that's the way my mind goes.
Well, right. I mean, I think you've got something there, because the most difficult thing about a crystallization process in general is getting an accumulation of the actual crystal structure to form and fall out of solution, because the densities of the mineral densities of these solutions are far what you could achieve at just atmospheric pressures and stuff. You can never dissolve that much, silica, for instance, in solution to get proper crystallization. You kind of need to force the hand. That's where the labs exploit it through a seed, right? So once you have a seed, everything else has what to accumulate on, because it's already falling into resonance with that seed. If you didn't have a seed and you were looking for it to fall out of solution, it takes much longer. But once it falls out of solution, now you have an accelerated process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, what you're saying is kind of dead on. Like, it knows the frequency it needs to be at. It knows how it wants to form, but it kind of needs that little bit to kind of get it going. Without that little bit, it's just, it doesn't want to accumulate.
Yeah. You need that spark of life, basically.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Tesla said they were alive.
Yeah. So
Now I get it.
crystals are sentient in their own way. They have about as much sentience as your fingernail, comparatively speaking. So it's just smaller. But you put a lot of it together, like if you walk into a cave that's surrounded by quartz, it's going to speak to you in some way or other.
Yeah, I don't think walking into a cave full of your fingernails would talk to you the same way. Like,
Of course not.
I mean, I'm saying, like, you know, like the quartz thing being good, I just don't feel like I'd get the same benefit from walking into a fingernail cave.
No.
Valid for me.
But I get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, right. There is sentience there. There's sentience in anything that, you know, reacts to its environment, right?
Yeah. So, moving on from the very bad fingernail analogy.
It wasn't that bad. Come on.
Or was.
I could have picked something better, but never mind. You want to move
So when
on to how an orgonite's made, or do you have other questions? What were we going to say there, Joe?
Oh yeah, I was gonna go into that. Right. So so when you're planning out an orgonite, and everything like that, but what thought process do you use to come up with not only what materials and everything, but are you also putting coils in them? I know I've seen them before, you know, with different coils and things to amplify it. How do you decide what you're going to put in there, how you're going to arrange it, and all that sort of stuff?
Okay, there are coils in there, but you need to copy the electromagnetic system of the body first. One thing that most people don't know is your body can only use 3 frequencies at a time. Doesn't matter how many it's exposed to, it's the 3 dominant frequencies that are going to make the biggest difference. So you can't just throw a chakra pyramid together and expect it to work on all the chakras at the same time. Unless the crystals involved work in all the chakras at the same time, like kyanite, for example.
Kyanite, yeah.
So we have 3 electromagnetic generators in our body. We've got the head, the heart, and the gut. That's what absorbs these energies as etheric, if you want to call them scalar signatures. So if I'm designing a bespoke pyramid, I need what I call bridging stones or family stones is my main focus. So it's balancing which crystals work together to create whatever effect I'm trying to get out of it. I mean, if someone wants to work on their telepathy, there's certain crystals that are said to help that. If someone has physical problems, there's certain crystals that work on that. And what I call bridging stones are, if you break it down in 3 ways, the heart generates the strongest electromagnetic field for the body. So if you look at that in a toroidal fashion, it's following this sort of figure 8 thing where it's going in and out, right? But at any one time, it's simultaneously going in and out at the same time. So you have the up, the center, and the down, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So you have, in chakra terms, that would be a purple crystal for the top, a green crystal for the middle, and a black crystal for the bottom, or red for the root. So you need to have those 3 bridging stones and work around that layer. Or you can do it in, say, and if anybody doesn't know what chakras are, there's 7 of them in the body. You've got the root, the sacral, the solar, the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown. So bridging stones work on the top, balance, and middle. The group stones, you can work on the root, sacral, and solar at the same time instead. So it's more lower central, or you could have a heart, a throat, and the crown at the same time, if that makes sense.
Okay.
They have to be grouped, or they have to be split in a way that works as a group. So when I'm building a custom thing, that's how I go about it. That's the thought process. Any coils that are added to that amplify or add to that base signature.
So do you only build one at a time?
No.
So so if everything's done on a basic different frequency level, how does one and the other, when you're in the room with them, not interact or counteract as you're standing in there?
Well, they're made in a mold, and the mold is HDPE, so it's plastic, which it partially blocks the effects from one sitting beside the other. Ideally, I'd make them all in their own like perfect ratio rooms that amplify everything, but that's not real life conditions. They're in my bedroom. It's a fucking mess. So, I've got
most good workspaces are.
yeah. It's the creative mind. It keeps everything in one place. You know where everything is, but nobody else would have a clue.
That's
Amen.
right.
You know the way.
But when it's all dried and done, they self-calibrate at the end anyway. And I've actually had pyramids that have changed their signatures based on after corrections.
Now, would you say that your intent, in building, when you're building them, and just your overall, vibrational energy plays a role in the outcome of what you get in the end?
Big difference. For a long time, I was struggling on that. I've shared with you before the environment I'm in, inner city. It's basically gang wars all around and all that kind of crap. It does affect me, and I have to pick very carefully when I actually apply resin. And I can't touch them either. I don't touch them with my fingers. Once they become powder, I work with spoons. They go into cups, resin gets mixed in, I don't touch them. Because if I touch them, and when you start working with these things, everything at the negative entity level tries to attack you. So if there's anything wrong with me, like even if I'm trying to put up a psychic shield, that affects the crystals if I touch them. So they will become kind of traumatized in a way that their natural condition is defensive.
So now, do you think that in the self, with the intention and where you're at, do you feel that the best outcomes come when you're able to avoid or overcome those types of negative energies, and you're just able to maintain a zero? Or do you feel that being at a higher vibrational level with like intent for greatness and things of that nature in building them with like a specific cause in mind, do you think that plays do you see a differential there? Is it better that you're at a zero so they can kind of choose their own path, or does your higher intention lead to a better result, do you feel?
It's a very important part of it, but I think it's a mix. You can't just be zero, but you can't just focus on what you want either. The reason I picked different crystals is because of their inherent programs. I don't want to change those. I want to keep those. But my intention towards them is do your job to the best of your ability within the conditions around you. But I have to be very centered emotionally to be able to do that constantly whilst I'm making them. Now, I have to be at a certain balanced level so that I don't influence them on the negative, but also so they can do their job. I'm just suggesting to them to do it well.
And
So
that makes
let me
sense,
ask
right?
you-
Playing a supportive role.
Yeah.
So let me ask you then, no music going on, and
Nope.
do you do any type of meditation or anything before this?
I don't have music going on like ever, but you can use the resonance of sounds like binaural beats. They can influence the resin, which carries a frequency on top of the crystals. So you can do that, which is where you can add other coils and tensor coils in as well, or tensor rings. So tensor rings are twisted wires that carry a certain wavelength because of the length of the wire, and they're twisted into rings, and you can put them around the central quartz crystal to impart another base frequency.
So is there a formula in determining what wavelength they would ultimately accumulate?
Yes and no. There are certain qubit lengths that are known to be powerful, and they go back to a lot of different cultures, but most of them Egyptian. But you also have, well, the Egyptians had like the royal qubit. Most people have heard of that one.
Mm-hmm.
The Tedoitians, the Vikings, they all had different qubit lengths, and you'd see them a lot on their jewelry, especially in bracelets. But there are known frequencies that are just popular for certain things. So I would use those. I wouldn't really calculate outside of that.
Okay, so you had said earlier about there being three main frequencies that the self aligns with. What are those three frequencies, if you don't mind sharing?
They're not individuals. It's whatever the body needs.
Okay.
So,
but only three frequencies really at a time is where it's set to, based on your your head, your heart, and your solar plexus and your gut.
Yeah. So when you have an orgonite in your field, what it's going to do, and it will do this in a completely sentient matter, or it can look like that. Now, any orgonite will do this, whether it's sentient or not, like mine. But any orgonite that's well made will work in a certain way, because what it's doing is providing the energy for the immune system to place wherever it wants. And the immune system always knows what's wrong with itself. So if you've been walking all day and you've got sore legs, it'll go to your legs. It'll give the energy to your legs, because that's what you need right in the moment. It's going to work wherever the body needs. So what you do is you provide as many possible combinations of frequencies that you can, so that the immune system knows what to do and has a base signature to work from.
Now, seeing as these deal in scalar, is there a measurable frequency output, or does realistically the rotational soup of frequencies that are ongoing lead to the waveform cancellation and just a longitudinal waveform ultimately? If you know.
Well, I'm not sure you can measure the exact frequency, because it's going to change. It's going to change every second, because it's working with you, and as you change, it's going to change and keep adapting. But you can get what's called the life meter energy, or life energy meter or something. LM4 it's called. All right. It measures the scalar potential. So it measures what you would call a chi level, but it doesn't measure the frequency of it, just the power of it.
Wow. So hold on real quick. When you get too close to a tester coil, you can put your hand at the exact same distance. The frequency is always going to be different. And it changes your mood when you're sitting in the room with it. So also has some of those properties, probably not to the degree yours does by any means, but there is a slight correlation there.
Oh yeah. Everything in your environment now is affecting your frequency.
Let me just say, man, you did an excellent job describing that, because like I pulled that one right out of you, because that's what I had in my head, was you have frequency soup that's, you know, in a constant state of you know, constructive and deconstructive interference, and more or less it's pumping out scalar, but it's also got like what I would call like free radical wave output. And if it's taking in as well as putting out, which we've established is the case here, right? And you're in that you know, environment of it, then the same as he was talking about before, about there being a differential offset of energies, right? If you're in that environment, you become part of the soup, right? So it's then sympathetic. It's sympathetically making up for, you know, whatever your deficit may be, because you become part of that system, you know. And I was able to fish that out of you, and that was awesome, you know.
So I have a
if you're in a large group of people, it's going to change the effects.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, would it just become so diffuse that maybe not everybody would get the same benefit?
Well, everybody technically exists in their own reality, but they also exist in a co-created shared reality. So at which level is your question directed?
Well, okay, that's a fair assessment. I guess just on the self-reality part of it, you know, on the individual basis.
Well, everybody in your environment is there for a reason. So whether you get any benefits or maybe negative effects from people, it's up to you, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
Every problem is also a solution.
So okay, so let's give a scenario here. Let's say you have two people in proximity to Orgonite, right? And you know, one person is in just a regular everyday mood, you know, and then you have one person that comes in who is a little bit, you know, down, so to speak. Now, a lot of times that, you know, if there's no Orgonite involved, right, you could come into a situation where the person that's down brings down the vibration of the person who's generally just okay, just because of you know, an empathetic response, you know, or a form of sympathetic resonance, and it plays directly into what he was saying before about, you know, the weaker system leeches off of the stronger system or the vibration, right? So that happens between people all the time, right? And you know how if you have an Orgonite now into the mix, does it potentially act as some environmental influence to be able to keep balance between the two people in that circumstance?
Well, each person is going to need a different output from the Orgonite. So it can simultaneously work on both, because it's their bodies that are pulling the frequencies out of it that they need. So the person who's more depressed or down will actually be lifted up a bit. And the person who's naturally happier in that environment is going to probably have more of an empathetic response to the person who's down. So if they might not be normally as empathic as they could be, like they're normally a bit self-involved or they're doing whatever, they'll be able to more clearly see why the other person is down and be able to help them as well.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, no, it makes total sense. So it would bring up the down person just a little bit, and maybe the other person who would naturally come down anyway might come down, but come down to a lesser level to meet where it's at. And the empathetic response may allow for at least clarity to understand the situation, more in depth and clearly to be able to address it. That's cool. Okay.
So I have a question for you. Okay, kind of like two-part. Can you take anything and make it an orgonite? Like, if I was to take the mud outside, right? I got DG out there, so I got quartz crystal in it. I have the mud layer itself of the earth. I probably have some other layers of crystal out there, some regular clear quartz, and then some rose quartz and some other things like that. If I layered them in there and then put water in there and then put the mud together, is that going to make something like that?
Don't forget your bifilar at the bottom. And the answer is yes.
So what was the bottom had to be again?
The S coil.
The S. Okay. And then if you imparted frequency in there in like a scalar wave or radiant energy, would it? I'm sorry, it would do it on its own, right?
It would do it on its own. It would emit chi energy.
Okay.
The quartz, if you said you had rose quartz there, it would emit more of a loving energy. Just naturally. That would work. My first orgonite, I made it from leather and sandpaper. Leather because it's chrome tanned. It had traces of metal in there. And the sandpaper because it's made of quartz. It's sand. Silica. And that worked. That was my first ever thing. It was only the size of a film canister.
Okay, so does glass play any role in this?
I haven't messed around with glass. It might, but I don't think it would have the same effects.
Okay. So would it then be like an insulator in this case?
Probably. I don't know.
Probably a semiconductor to a degree. I mean, the whole thing about it, though, I think is that glass is an organic, and I think that where the resin plays the role is it acts as an organic compound that is filling in all the gaps of the layering of all the inorganics.
Oh, I'm sure there's some organic in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, resin, even when it's polyresins and stuff like that, it's still carbon-based organic.
Yeah.
So that tends to be the thing. So even if it's synthetic, it's still organic. Sort of how I think the reasoning with that works. I did have a little bit of a technical question. If you don't feel comfortable answering it, obviously just say. But how you have the multi-layering. How are you achieving the limestone outer shell? Are you pulverizing and forming through resin and limestone at that point, or are you carving limestone? How are you achieving that?
Yeah, it's a limestone dust mixed with
limestone dust. Okay.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. Very, very cool.
Well, it makes the process so much easier, doesn't it? Like, in comparison to what you would have to use otherwise?
Now, are there other... Sorry.
No, I sent an image, one of the two images there I sent to Nathan is a hollow hexagonal shell and the hexagon orgonite beside it. So you can see how that one's done.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. I'll pull that up.
With normal pyramids, I would make them first, and then I would float that on top of the inside of a different mold, and then pour the resin into the gap between them.
Very cool.
And for some reason, I can't figure out, the limestone layer takes about 10 days. Normally, it takes about a day per layer to dry. The limestone just takes forever. I don't know why. No idea. That's using a concrete planter mold. So in that's kind of like a coaster-sized orgonite. So that one I make the shell first, and then I make the orgonite inside that. But everything else, I make the orgonite first, and then put the shell around it.
Okay, that makes sense. Right, it would probably be a lot easier if you had a mold that would allow you to do the same thing with the pyramid, because then you could almost guarantee the proper alignment without going through any extra steps or anything.
It's not too hard. It's just a pyramid inside a pyramid, you know. As long as you get the
true.
right.
So I did notice in your pyramids, it looked like the capstones on it were maybe a different material or something like that. Are you using a different material for the capstone? Is it only the outer shell that's utilizing that, and then the inner shell is pressed up against that, or does that transcend into the inner shell as well? And does that make a difference?
I think it does make a difference. The two pyramids up on the screen now, they're made from most of all the same stuff, except the red iron oxide, which tints things brown. So the one on the screen at the minute, you'll see flecks of metal in there. That's the key shavings, partially because it's quite attractive looking. And the rest,
that's like brass.
It's like a brass nickel kind of mix. Plus, you've got the powdered iron filings and other stuff in there. The other tips that I make, they are solid brass. So the inside pyramid will have this kind of thing with the red iron oxide, so it's a brownish color. And then the very tip will be brass, just because it's shiny and it looks nicer. It also differentiates my old style work to the new style work.
Okay. I mean, I have to say, if nothing else, it's absolutely beautiful.
Oh, it is.
Absolutely beautiful.
I was actually worried about that too.
Why is that?
A lot of organites are sold by how shiny and how attractive they are. And there's a lot of things that are like bright purples and blues and all these patterns. And it's like, I'm coming in with something that's completely plain looking. So I was kind of worried about it not being taken well. But I think it worked out well. They're elegant and simple.
Which more like what the pyramid should have been, right? Or looked like back in the day. That's the right way to do it.
That was my thought. Yeah, I mean, this looks like a beautiful, crisp white pyramid and sitting in a desert. It's what it looks like.
Yeah. Well, the original pyramids were built by the Atlanteans, and they didn't add the limestone because they had a different purpose. It was the Egyptians that added the limestone. And I think a lot of their purpose was for scalar effects, like for amplifying consciousness, for astral projection, for visiting different planets and stuff like that. So the Egyptians knew a hell of a lot of shit, but they're still following on the Atlantean technology.
Wow.
They just leapfrogged off of what worked.
Yeah.
So how old would you say the Atlantean population is versus the Egyptian?
Well, the Egyptians, I think, found it maybe like 2,500, 3,000 years ago or whatever. I don't know the dates exactly, but whenever they found them, they had some tech, and there were some Atlanteans teaching them how to use it, like at sort of stepped levels. But the actual building of the pyramids was like 38,000 years ago.
So well before the Great Flood.
Oh, well before. The Atlanteans had about 26,000 years before the flood. The flood was their reset point.
So let me ask you another question. Do you know if they're still alive in any way?
They are. They are in hiding, and they will eventually come out again.
Really?
The founder of Atlantis was a fellow named Uran. He was taught by Thoth, or Thoth, depending on how you pronounce it, on how atoms worked at the molecular level. And one of the first things he was looking for was how to fix the aging process. So what he found was a plant that had a certain structure, that had a certain amino acid in it that extended life. So that was their first step in evolution. I can go into a lot of
all that
detail.
makes great, wonderful sense.
Goes right into a Gilgamesh story that he was looking for the same plant.
It's possibly heard something about that. Yeah. But that was their first step. Well,
so like the emerald tablets and everything like that, that's based off of the plant, the amino acid from the plant.
I'm not sure. I haven't gone into that side of it. When I first discovered the existence of the emerald tablets, I didn't give it much credence, to be honest. It may speak the truth, it may not. It may have, like everything else in the public eye, half the truth and half lie. But I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, some of it could be allegorical too. I mean, and any of the old teachings, Hermetic teachings, which is that's Thoth, is all the Hermetic teachings. It all tends to be a little allegorical.
There's a lot of truth in them.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I got another question for you then. Are the Atlanteans the same thing as the Anunnaki?
No.
Okay.
The Atlanteans, if you think back to what history tells you were people of that time, they were tribal, they were warring, they were barely past caveman type existence. So this one tribe, they didn't like the wars. They were completely pacifist from the genetics all the way up. They hated violence. They ran away to a space where they had no other tribes, which was South Africa. They built a city to protect themselves from the other warring tribes. And then they set upon learning the secrets of the universe. And it was Uran who did that. He was the founder and the leader for about the first 10 to 12,000 years. And the first thing they did was find the plant. That gave them about 700 to 900 years of lifespan.
Oh.
And in that time, they found frequency tech on top of things to not only extend life, but to bring life back to a permanent condition of DNA prime. If you follow me.
Okay, so if they're in hiding, do you have any idea, even in speculation, where they may be?
Somewhere inside Earth. I think they're either connected to the Telosians and the Argarthans, or they are the Telosians or Argarthans.
You took the bait, Nathan.
Sorry about that. We just did a episode on the whole inner Earth thing, and what you're saying ties right into it.
Yeah, they're all extremely advanced civilizations, and they're going to know of each other. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. But the way Atlantis developed, Iran ran things for about the first 10, 12,000 years. There was a societal mess created when he decided to limit population density. So it split and somebody else took over. That lasted, I think, 5,000 or 6,000 years. And then he was actually kind of shot out of power by what the Atlanteans later called the Mad King. And he was the one who crippled Atlantis. He was basically Hitler with all this superbly advanced technology using against everybody else on the planet, all the other tribes, and the original Iran founders. That created a split in their society, and the Mad King was desperately trying to find technology to kill the rest of them. But Iran, he was basically the smartest person who's ever been alive on this planet, and is still alive on this planet. But he had force field technology, which the Mad King didn't. His scientists didn't have that. So they
Well, they should have hired Philip.
Maybe.
Please continue.
Yes.
I don't know much about that past the basics. I know the certain technology that they had. I know certain symbology is actually representative of technology. Sorry, let me say it another way. The likes of the handbags. Everybody's seen the handbags on the Egyptian walls. They were portable power sources. And if you think about it in terms of Tesla, he was creating radiant energy, like the pyramids are said to do. And if you were going out to study, like an anthropologist, other tribes of the earth at the time, 25,000 years ago, you would carry your technology power source with you. That's what they were. They were portable batteries that were self-powering. Their watches were basically apples. Apple watches. There were communication systems and all the rest of it.
You're saying it's like a watch. The watch is like an Apple Watch?
Yeah, it was technology. There was nothing symbolic about it except that the Egyptians who later wrote about it, they didn't understand it as technology. They just always saw these people with those watches, with those handbags, and with the helmets. That's their three main traits. The helmets provided their force fields. They actually generated a force field around the person so that the warring tribe threw a spear at them, they wouldn't touch them. They'd just bounce off. That's why they were called gods.
Okay, I gotta ask you about the helmet. Was it the same ones you see in Egypt, like the big mask things that they had, or different?
Helmets. They're all. Whoever was going out. Okay. Atlantis had 12 universities. All right. The Egyptian complex, Chem, it was the University of Practical Energy and Development. That was its purpose. There was 2 universities in South Africa, and there was other universities around the world. When you grew up in Atlantis with 700 years, you had to go through schooling. Schools back then, and you wouldn't like this nowadays, there were 10 years per university. So you'd have to go through 120 years of schooling before you were allowed to contribute to society. One of those universities was the study of basically what we would call anthropology. It was a study of tribes, it was a study of animals and flora and fauna. When you would go out, you needed protection from like warring tribes. So the helmets, they all did the same purpose, but depending on who was going out on their field research, they would have different personalities. So if their spirit animal was an owl, they'd go out with an owl helmet, or a phoenix, or whatever. That's where they had
super interesting.
Helmets. And that's coming out in the book too. Not mine, but a friend of mine. The reason I have so much Atlantean information is because she remembers her entire life there of about 15,000 years.
Oh, that's a lot.
And she's been writing the book for like her whole life. She's like in her 60s now.
Oh, wow. Okay, hold on. When is that book coming out?
I don't know. Sometime next year, I think.
I'm going to tell you this. I'm not a big reader, but when you got your book and her book, I'm going to read them both.
Yeah, this is all just really critically amazing stuff.
It is, and it's
Critically
coming
amazing.
out everywhere though. If you look around, like Netflix came out with the something Apocalypse series recently about Atlantis. I don't know if have either of you seen that.
No, I haven't. I'll have to check that out too.
It's on there's 2 seasons of something that it covered Atlantis. I don't know what else is there, but interestingly, it got shot down by the Guardian recently, the British newspaper. So whatever they're talking about, the mainstream media doesn't like it. They're trying to dismiss it like everything else, like free energy and all the rest of it.
Oh, we'll have to listen for sure.
Yeah, then in that case, sign me up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get off of this and watch it right away.
Yeah, like everything they don't like, almost.
Yeah. Well, for anyone in this field, most of it's not going to be new. They're probably going to be talking about free energy and radiant energy, and we know that exists. We know there's medical cures that have been suppressed. Energy has been suppressed. Anti-gravity has been suppressed. There's nothing new there, really. But
So I do have a question to go back to the Organites, if we can, for a second.
Go ahead.
Yep.
So, have you noticed or ever done any experiments with mirrors and the Organites? Like if you were to place the Orgonite onto a mirror and then have a mirror also reflecting back?
not with the Organites, but with pyramids, yes.
With pyramids, yes. Okay, so just in your experience, even with just the pyramids, having a mirror top and bottom, is there any sort of observable effect?
If you build a pyramid that you can sit in or sleep in, you place the pyramids on the bottom corners, facing inwards, which causes a reflection of things. I wouldn't try it top and bottom because the energy is to move top and bottom. It has to make a connection between the earth and the sky. So if you block that, it'll amplify your energy, but not the Orgonite energy. It has to be connected top and bottom. So if you mirror on the sides and not the top and bottom, it's all going to become a swirling vortex soup, as you would put it.
Okay, so now let's suppose one other thing. Let's suppose that at the apex of the pyramid, right, and consider this to be of an Orgonite too. Let's say that you were to bring your two plates together right at the apex, and create a cashmere effect at that. What do you suppose?
Like if you made faces of the pyramid mirrors. Is that what you mean?
No. If you were to take two mirrored plates, and bring them together at the apex where it meets, and bring the plates together right at the source of emanation.
I don't know. I've not done that experiment, but it sounds intriguing.
Let me know.
Hold on. We got to go back to something, guys, because Joe got us back to the Orgonite. I needed to have a question answered. She remembered her whole 15,000 years. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, roughly.
Okay. So she was reborn into a new body.
Everybody is.
Okay. So is it by choice or is it random?
Nothing is ever random. Me being here right now is not random.
I could tell you that based on what I do. I could tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
We're literally going to start an experiment here soon that has to do with just about everything we covered today, in layers, compression, and everything.
Most people cannot see the scale of life. We only see our individual lives. But the entire thing is a very complex orchestra of hundreds of trillions and trillions and trillions of complicated, multifaceted potentials that might not even exist.
Yeah, things are they say there's no coincidences, right? So things are always put in your path for the taking, and it'll take you a different way. But if there's certain things that you must follow, and those things will continuously find their way, right in your path until you take it.
Okay, hold on.
Stepping stones.
Yeah, we're learning something here, and I just want to make sure I get to the finer points of it. She remembered her past life, means that she has full recognition of it, and that in her current state, she lives a personal life now, but she also remembers the 15,000 years of it. Does that mean that we can unlock that in ourselves?
Yes.
Okay.
If you raise your vibration to a certain level, most humanoid forms can remember about 3 different past lives. And when I say past lives, that's not necessarily linear past in our perspective. You could possibly remember 400-year lifespans in the future and 700-year lifespans in the past. You could theoretically remember both depending when you incarnated.
Ooh, this is getting good. Okay. It's kind of like that Star Trek thing. You see a flip phone in Star Trek, you build a flip phone. Okay. You know that it's possible to reach those levels. Now you need to find a way.
Yes.
Okay.
People like Tesla had the sight of that. They could look at patterns and recognize what was not there because in their past life it was there. Does that make sense?
Oh, it would make perfect sense.
It does. Yep.
I see things all the time that I know if they're wrong or right away, and I don't know why.
Yeah. It's because you remember them.
So you could it all has to come back to like the whole subtle energy things for most people in order to be able to reach those points, right?
Yeah.
Because not everybody is going to have the fortunate benefit that his friend has, where they could just recall this detailed, long-term, extensive past life. But whenever you find yourself gravitating towards something that you normally generally wouldn't, it's just an inconsistency, but yet you have like an affinity for something. Maybe it's a name, maybe it's just like a place, or something from a different era that you just find yourself oddly attracted to, and in relation with, is all hints toward your past, is sort of what it boils down to. And it's funny because before I was really in tune with anything, and I don't really recall anything from past lives like super specifically, but there's things that I know. One of the things that I know, I brought up, right, the straight razor shaving and stuff, and go back to, there was like one of those restoration type villages where I used to live. And I used to have the greatest affinity for this place, and like kind of always felt like, some of the house setups and stuff that they had there and whatnot felt really home. And I know that, like that was definitely a part of something in the past for me. Like I intuitively know that. I don't know the details of it so much, and, I've, had a fascination in like smithing and stuff like that since I was a kid for no good reason, and, wanted to be a knife maker and stuff this whole life, but without like rhyme or cause. And
I'm the same, actually.
Yeah. So like it, I pick up intuitively that that's something that I had done in the past.
Most people have spent a lot of time in war, and in the past, a lot of that has revolved around swords and knives. So many of us have an affinity for knives because of that necessity in a past life to have a good knife, because you need to save your life. You need to save your family's lives.
Yeah. For me, it was making them,
Yeah.
more than anything. But I always found that to be really fascinating.
Phobias as well. I was going to say before, a lot of our phobias in this life come from our past lives. And scar tissue, birth scars, are often a physical manifestation of the result of the trauma we carried from past life death.
Gotcha. So, like, afraid of heights, somebody probably fell off a building or a cliff or something.
Yep.
Man. Oh, hold on. I go back to, I know my brain's jumping. This is all low energy. This is, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, this is like, everybody talks about high voltage, high this, high that. This is really like the lower the energy input compared to what we're normally talking about is so much smaller, but it does so much more.
Yeah.
Exactly. Think about like even just emerging technologies with like all solid state storage devices and things like that. It takes nothing to be able to record and retrieve information off of something that's just nominally small.
Well, no. Here's what I was thinking. My Tesla coil, I have a Slayer exciter circuit, and I also have that ZVS. Now, ZVS works great if you want to do hot energy, okay? Works good on cold energy. But that Slayer exciter, because it can get down so low on the energy, that thing is absolutely a gorgeous circuit to get everything on the other side of energy in the cold region. And that energy does not like to work at a high value. It loves the lower value that you give it, more of the ring of the circuit itself than anything.
Yeah, that makes total sense. The like low frequency stuff, generally speaking, is closer to nature and then also closer to rest. So,
Hello?
It's all lower input stuff.
Still there?
Yeah, we're here.
Hello?
Can you hear us?
I blacked out for a second there.
Oh,
You got cool.
Yeah, we're here.
Good. You were saying about low frequency, low energy.
Yeah, so hold on. My Slayer exciter circuit, right, gets down to about 5 volts. And I can get energy out of my Tesla coil at 5 volts. What that does to the rod down the center of it is it allows that rod to get super cold. And it also allows it to put energy on there that's in a different format than you would get in the hot energy. And it does not like in any way to be raised up in temperature at all. It hates it.
What frequency is that running at?
436 kilohertz.
That's still quite high. For me,
Oh,
that's
it is. But it'll, how do I say it? When you put it in the mud, it drops the frequency. I could put this thing back down to hertz. I could put my Tesla coil into 20 hertz if you wanted it. So, yeah, it changes it. That's why I was asking about the orgonite being in the mud, because I make layers of mud and I put that energy right into it. It lowers the frequency and changes what it's doing. It's like there's a overriding beat frequency that's bouncing back at it.
Well, I'd say that's the Earth trying to work with you. Because the human resonance, the core human resonance frequency is 7.83 hertz.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got one at like 24 hertz, and I can't remember the rest. But when you're at that level, it comes down to brainwave entrainment. So if you're able to, I would invite you to tune it to 110 hertz.
Okay.
Because that's at the brainwave level, that's when you start getting to hemispheric coordination or hemispheric balance. So you're balancing the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of the brains, but you're fully aware. It's the opposite of the meditation state. So you're hyper vigilant, but you're also able to tune into one of the octaves of the Schumann's resonance.
Yeah, it's a state of it's alpha brain waves, but in a state of coherence.
It's
So
lambda.
So what ends up happening under normal circumstances with your brain waves is that you'll be in an alpha state, but there'll be a lot of noise. So it's in a state of incoherence. So once you reach a state of coherence in your right and left hemisphere of your brain, you could sync.
It's not the alpha though; it's the lambda. They call it.
Now, what I need is a different coil. I know what I need. Okay, I need a geometry coil, and I need to run it in cold energy, and I need to apply the frequency on my own, and I'll have exactly the right thing.
Sounds fun.
Yeah,
bring it on
for sure. That guy that we were talking about not too long ago, you and I think it was off air though. What is it? Museum of Tarot. Right, he did a Tesla video recently. He's done a whole bunch of videos, but he actually works in psychic training devices as a matter of profession, and it works off of all exactly what you're saying. As far as the brainwave training is concerned through frequency, works exactly that way. Yeah, really cool stuff.
Yeah. So can I bring things back to the orgonite and how to use it?
Absolutely. Please do.
Please do.
It kind of ties into how you program your own brainwave frequencies. So do either of you normally wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, or 3:03, or 3:33? Yep, all hands up and around.
Every night.
Yeah.
The reason for that, do you know why you do that?
I don't know. Something about your brain being preset.
My understanding of it was because when you're in a form of resonance, that's when the veil is the thinnest, so to speak, with your ambient resonance.
Oh, that's kind of on point. So when you sleep, the brain waves go through a specific cycle, and the end of that cycle is the REM state, or the dream state that you would remember. But when everybody sleeps, their consciousness leaves their body and goes back into the astral planes, or the above physical levels. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, almost everybody around you is asleep. So nobody is in their body, which means the electromagnetic frequency they're putting off isn't there anymore. They're all vacant. So the ambient energy is almost zero. So there's no interference. So when you wake up at that time, the veil is thinnest because there's no interference to stop you getting to where you want to go, if you want to go there. So when you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's because the universe is telling you, if you want the opportunity to explore consciousness, this is the best time to do it.
Oh.
And the reason the REM state is the precursor for that is because that's when you're closest to it. When you just about come out of the dream state, but you haven't quite hit your body yet, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So you're really, really close into the meditation state. Now, if you compare it to the meditation state, say it would take you 25 to 30 minutes to get somewhere, or to lower your brainwave frequencies to, say, 1 hertz. You're already coming out of the dream state at 1 hertz. So if you go back into a meditation state, you're there. There's no waiting anymore. You can go straight there with full awareness, but you're still operating at that 1 hertz frequency.
That's right. That's absolutely correct.
So it's like going into your dream and being able to understand that it's you and that you can control it at that point.
Yeah, that's lucid dreaming.
You could pull out a lucid dreaming though, in the state that he's saying, and have a broader overview, you know, and in a conscious fashion. So you're still lucid, that part's still there, but you're not necessarily in a scenario state like a dream. You're more like of a free spirit, literally, at that point, you know. So you could go and explore what you need to. You could ask questions, you know, you could see people you need to see, and, you know, tie up loose ends and things of that nature.
Yeah. It's kind of the opposite of lucid dreaming, in the sense that it's dreaming lucid.
Dreaming lucid, yep. Makes sense.
And that's
like, because lucid dreaming, you're thrown into a scenario or you have a scenario, but you're in control of yourself in the scenario. This is, you're more in control of what you're doing and the scenario and aware of it.
That is very well put. So in that state, you can go back to different past lives, or you can visit past times or future times.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I come out with a lot of information here in the next few weeks, you know that I'm going everywhere.
You normally do anyway.
Well, I'm going to remember it this time.
Tentacle oils, it's coming from a place of memory, and wherever you're going in your sleep is probably connected to that memory.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah, or you're making the right connections in those states too. You know, if you have like pure and the best intentions, and you are able to enter into those highest meditative states that we're kind of describing at this point, you can pretty much ask whatever you want, and provided that you're coming from a good place and you're able to handle what you're asking, you will receive. You will.
Okay.
So,
see, I only use it to build things. I didn't realize you go back to past lives or future lives. I just use it to build things. I get in a real, you know what I mean, zero state, and I can see anything I want. You know what I mean? How to build it, where it goes, where the bolts go, where the screws go, the wires, everything.
see, the funny thing about it, and this isn't a criticism at all, so please don't take it that way. But
no, go ahead.
So when you're exploring those types of depths, though, what I just said is critically important, right? You have to have the proper intention and also be in the state which is able to receive and properly put that information to use, right? So your intentions and everything, they're all good and so on and so forth, but without exploring the deeper parts of it that are outside of just the intention of getting something done, it becomes a self-defeating prophecy, because you can't go in with the intention of just accomplishment necessarily. You have to understand the deeper meaning and discover that for yourself first, a lot of times, before you're then prepared to receive the big goods. You'll still get stuff out of it, what you're ready for, but then it becomes an incremental process. If you're truly ready, because you understand the full self at that point, you'll just wake up and then have this sensation, and then a day or two later, something's going to hit you like a sack of potatoes, and all of a sudden everything's going to make total sense, and it's going to be crazy. That's how that occurs.
Yeah,
good.
Why? But if not, then you'll keep on asking the same questions, and you'll just get what you're ready for.
No, I don't think you understand. I don't want to ask a question. Not at all.
Yeah.
No. I just want to know if it's possible. You see, I put limits on everything that I do in every aspect of my life. and I never open myself up to anything else. That's the thing. I
But
just
that is
like
what you're opening yourself up to.
that's what I'm saying.
There are certain laws that govern how the universe is used. And the laws that come into play here are first the law of responsibility and maybe the law of mirrors. So what you might not be asking specific questions, but what you're asking is about truth. So everybody's walking around in the academic community saying, prove this, prove that. They're not looking for the truth. They're looking for somebody else to prove something, which means they will never find it.
Right.
The universe responds to you as an individual person. And if you are looking for the truth, you will be given that in some way or form.
Yeah. I mean, they sum it up by calling it just gnosis. You know, you have to enter into high states of gnosis, which is, you know, the intuitive truths where it transcends belief, right? So, you know, believing something is great. And I think this comes up with spirituality all the time, right? The belief in God, or the belief in some dogma, or the belief in something, an afterlife, or whatever the belief is. But belief is something that you hope and suppose is true, but you've never experienced it. So therefore you don't know. Right? So the best you could do is believe. What this provides is, you know. So
Exactly.
There's a period at the end somewhere, right? So you can't say, oh yeah, so how is that? Yeah, oh yeah, so prove that. Yeah, so prove that. Some things are just exactly what they are. You know, it's the period at the end.
Yeah. The mind,
I don't know. That's the best way I can describe it.
The mind has to be open to see that. If you're stuck on the idea of somebody else proving it to you, you will never experience it for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Let me just say this: anybody that's seen this show knows that I'm not stuck on that idea at all. Nor do I care.
We know.
Matter of fact, all I do is build my projects and then, put them out there and let people decide, whether I'm right or wrong or whatever. And I still don't care. It's truth to me because I see it, and I see things that most people wouldn't, and I'm okay with that. I'm 100% comfortable in it, and that's what I'm saying. I just needed to know it was possible. That's it. I'm well within myself, and I don't mean that as I'm a structured human being and this and that. I mean that my mind is 100% clear on everything. So I'm not going to have an issue. At least I don't think I am. You know what I mean?
Well,
yeah. Well, I mean, sorry.
Go ahead, Jeff. You go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say. I mean, realistically, it's one of those Excelsior type circumstances. That's how this game works. It's ever upward, right? So you can never define where you're at currently as like the highest state you could be in, because if you're just always in that state of awareness,
we're all in the lowest state we can be in.
Yeah,
I don't think we're in the highest state at all.
Well, I mean, it's the highest state that you're able to achieve at any given moment. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. So it's not about a lowest state or highest state. Potentially, it's about an ever upward momentum.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the best anybody could do in life.
Well, nobody strives to be dumber than they are, unless you're dumbass fuck already.
Yeah, well, people have managed to achieve that shit all the time. So
yes,
everybody in
go figure.
They're striving to know more. They're not striving for less. The energy in universal terms, because you're in a state of passion, you want to know this. You're excited by this. That's why the universe has given this to you.
Mhm.
And it's that desire and need for more that creates expansion. That's what creates the higher frequency. It's the ability to carry higher levels of information than most people can or are able to at any one point.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay, I have to ask this because we talk so much about it. What is your opinion on the light body?
From what perspective? There's a lot of different perspectives on that.
Do you believe in it? Do you believe that we're going to get there? Is it us out of our current body? Is it us in our body? Is it us in our body in a different state of mind completely? Along those lines.
Okay. Your body does not exist. You think it exists because you can look in a mirror and see it. But what you are in actuality is an energy orb. That's all you are. You are one orb in a room with many other orbs around you. Altogether, you create the idea of the room, therefore the room creates itself. That is what we would call the planet. So at that level, your light body is just your existence. Your actual body kind of does exist as the walls of the room, at the same time as you existing as the creator of the walls, if that makes sense. And if you meditate at certain levels and in certain circles, they will call that the white room. I don't know, Joe, you might have been there before.
I've been in a void.
Yeah. The void or the white room is the normal encapsulation of the idea that you are simultaneously the light body and the wall around the white body, the light body. So at that level, you don't really exist as the wall so much as the light body itself, but as a human person, you are the wall, therefore you can move things. That might sound a little bit weird, but let's just say
Can
you
I
exist.
can I try to chime in on this? Just see if this kind of helps. There's a simultaneous locality and non-locality.
Yes.
That exists. Okay. So yes, you're here, and here I am touching myself, but there's something within this, okay, that is also here and everywhere simultaneously. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Where just our physical awareness, because of the physicality of it, okay, you only become aware of the greater connection if you're at a different and higher activated state, which is how we put it previously when we talked about light body activation and so on. So you have a great deal of these people that are orbs, and they too are here and everywhere, but they don't subscribe to that, and they don't have the vibrational levels to understand or accept that, let alone be aware and experience it. Okay. So it tends to be this, it's neither one or the other, it's both. Right. And then when it comes to the environment, Eighth Center had said it earlier about, whose reality? There's my reality, your reality, and then our shared reality, right? So the manifestation of the environment, when you're taking this angle of approach to kind of talk about the subject, right? Our environment is made up because we exist within it. See, if we didn't exist within it, then it wouldn't exist for us. And it wouldn't exist at all if nobody existed to experience it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So you're here and there and everywhere. And the only reason this exists is because you experience it. And if nobody here was to be able to experience it, then it ceases to exist at all.
Okay.
Except that this planet is a very strange one in the sense that most planets, when it comes to trees, they would only have one type of tree or maybe two types of tree. Our planet exists as a library planet of all the other alien species simultaneously incarnating here and bringing their past memories, trees, plants, animals, and all that to this planet. So when it comes to the incarnation state or the becoming physical state within a light body shared experience, everybody is bringing all of these things to one space.
So I love that you said that too, because there is something special about this planet, and this is just an opinion. So if you don't agree, I actually want to hear that too, you know, but see, what I just said doesn't really apply to Earth, okay? Because Earth is in a certain circumstance of symbiotic equilibrium. And we've discussed this before. Its relationship with its own fields and its interaction with the sun and those fields that manifest as a result of that in the equilibrium that causes this perfect environment that we exist in, you know, in itself has a high degree of sentience, okay, which is what a sinner had referred to before as Gaia, right? And that sentience alone is enough to sustain the physical manifestation of the planet with or without your observation.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a state of physicality and reality that's set in stone here that may not exist in other places, like places of depletion, right? We talk about like these places of hydrogen depletion. They don't have a magnetic field. They're just dead planets, more or less, right? Well, if nobody's there to observe that, is it there? Maybe not. Maybe not. In that, because there's no sentience of it. There's no sentience at all. It's depleted. So here, where because of this equilibrium state that exists, if provided that it's sustained, it manifests in physicality.
Okay, so hold on. If you say we're here and everywhere in the body, but also everywhere around it, it's not like John Constantine, when you go in there and you go into the store and you see the angel that glows out of the guy, you know what I mean, as a soul outside of his human body. It's not like that.
No, it's not like that.
Okay. It's the actual energy in the room is you.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to clarify.
When you reach certain levels of high meditative states, there's an expanse that occurs where even if you haven't reached what you would consider to be like an out-of-body experience, even if you're still like energetically attached to your body at that point, there's still an energy expanse that occurs where you could sense and pick up on the idea that your energy has transcended space.
Okay,
so you could kind of have a focus then within yourself, a focus at other places that are not here because you're here and there. So you could transcend that. That's where like remote viewing and stuff like that comes in. You don't necessarily have to have like a full-blown out-of-body experience to be able to remote view something. It's just a focus level. If you can fall out and have an out-of-body experience, right, it just simply becomes more in tune and focus. So your level of interaction at that point becomes much higher because your whole entire energy sphere has been able to rather than expand and diffuse and observe from a distance, it then becomes concentrated in that spot as if you were there. There's your difference, you see? So there's two different levels of it, or multiple different levels of it. And the imagination works off of these same principles.
Hold on. If I'm the energy in the room, I can feel the room.
Yes.
Okay. So I know everything in the room.
Yes.
And the position and where it is and when it's out of place.
Yeah.
So, okay. That's it. I just, certain things that you do sometimes, Ben, you manipulate things and you don't know why, or you change the energy in your body to sway a certain way and you can turn on switches. It changes how you see things now. Now you know why. Now it's okay to expand that part.
Yeah.
A lot of people, if you don't tell them that it's there, they will go crazy because they don't understand it.
You know what a good gauge of that is if you're a person who, like, if something is going to fall off of a shelf and you're just sitting there and you could grab it, that's because your spatial recognition, your expanse, is just wider generally than most other people's, because human beings don't have the type of response time, to see something out of the corner of their eye, generally speaking, and just think, oh, something's falling, and then reach out and react and actually physically get it. But if you have this level of awareness, and I find myself doing that all the time, like actually my entire life before I started meditating. It's like something's falling and all of a sudden, it doesn't matter if it's over here, there, next thing, just grab it. Yeah. Sometimes I'll whack it because it doesn't help your coordination, but at the end of the day, like, you're still reacting to something environmentally that is kind of outside of your normal senses and focus.
Yeah. They've proven that with parapsychology as well. The human body, the brain, reacts or can react up to 38 seconds before the physical happening. They do that. They show different slides and certain levels of brainwave states for people. They're reacting to a slide 38 seconds in advance of seeing the image.
Mm.
It's what quantum physics might call spooky shit.
Yeah. But spooky shit at a distance.
That thing was falling off a shelf. I've done that too my whole life. I remember I was like 17 in school with my back to one of my best friends, and he was about to drop something, and I'm involved in a conversation facing one way with 2 or 3 people in front of me. He's in a conversation behind me facing 2 other people in a conversation, and he dropped something, and I turned around and grabbed it before it even hit the ground, before it even fell, pretty much. I grabbed it a few centimeters from his hand. So there's no possible way I could know, without seeing him, whilst I'm distracted, that he was going to drop something and turn around my entire body, my whole hand, to travel about a meter through space to grab something without knowing in advance that it was possible or that it was going to fall. And I've done the same with myself.
Same experiences, man. I'm telling you. That's exactly what it is. And it's more than just spatial awareness, or situational awareness. It transcends that. It's beyond that.
Yeah. Big time.
That's interesting. I experience in the opposite way. And maybe it's not so different. I throw cases of soda most of my life, right? So at the rate I throw them, it would take 4 of you to get them to me fast enough. You know what I mean? And I know exactly where they are in the air when they come.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know if you threw it at my back or I know if you threw it to my hand. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bit different, but I'm moving at such a speed you would never be able to do it as fast as I could. Now, by all means, I was 200 pounds at the time and, quick as heck, not big and fat like I am now. So just a lot different. So maybe not so much, but
all this stuff is the same exact mechanisms of intuition and precognition.
Interesting.
It's just a less developed form of it. And that's all it is. Less developed form of precognition.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Let me say this, guys. We're a little over 2 hours right now. So I'm going to give you the floor at 8th Center. Tell me anything that you want about the Orgonites and everything. I mean, kind of give us a final verdict on everything, or however you want to say it.
I would struggle there because we haven't even started yet. We really haven't even started.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, give us the rundown.
Oh, God. Okay. I'm struggling here. You might want to pause for a minute.
No, take your time.
Yeah, we're good. I'll be honest with you, man. If you think it's something that you don't want to do all at once, we can always come back and do a second or a third episode.
I think this needs a part 2, but I think that we should definitely have like a little cherry on top for this one.
Yeah, well, we've covered a lot of the basics, what I would call. And in that sense, the basics are you need to understand that you are not a living person, that you are an energy form that non-locally accesses consciousness. And it's that state of being that has to be recognized when it comes to Orgonite. Because Orgonite just provides the energy. Now, if you want to address the physical manifestation of the body, you can break it down in terms of DNA and cells and atoms. Everything that you think is real as a molecular state of being, a physical manifestation, is constantly destroying and recreating itself per Planck second, twice per Planck second. So it's like frames on the wall. Your brainwave state is what recognizes that traversal through what appears to be memory or time and is going to react to different frames per second. But at the atomic level, everything is flowing inside and out of the ether constantly. This includes the cells. And the cells, because of all of our bombardments of toxins in the air, the water, perfumes, food, all of these toxins slow down the efficiency of the potential chi that we can extract from the ether in order to put into the cycle of regenerating the human form as a manifestation. Orgonite, at its very basic principle, increases that potential to where the toxins no longer affect the damage. So you can more easily reach a state of higher consciousness within that physical form, meaning you can simultaneously access higher states of existence whilst experiencing the physical manifestation of Earth and people around you. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does.
Oh, totally makes sense. So the Orgonite is working more or less as a bullshit filter. It's taking all the free radical wavelengths and like breaking them down to a base form and outputting them into a usable form that's more in tune with existence.
Yeah. But the body is always trying to recreate itself. And the more energy we can give that, the less energy this destruction around us is going to have on the physical body. And oddly enough, the less you believe in the potential of the destruction of the physical surroundings, the less effect it's going to have as well. Because again, you're simultaneously transcending that physicality and realizing that at any given moment, you can change your genetics to match whatever situation you want. There's an ongoing transfer of information there between you and the ether, or God consciousness, or prime consciousness, prime creator, whatever you want to call it. There's an ongoing transfer of information there where if you can control it, if you're above the physical levels, you can control it and you can do what you want. You can become telepathic, you can walk through walls, you can control time, you can control objects if you get into that higher state. And the orgonite helps you get into that higher state. In meditation,
It's almost like a form of like etheric placebo, like not in like a bad way where it's like not doing anything.
Yeah,
but it supports the idea that, you know, everything ought to be a certain way.
Yeah, a placebo is still a real effect.
Right. This is what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It has an effect. Placebo, the same effect that you're describing, you know, to a degree, which is, you know, your belief that this harms or affects or this or that gauges how much it actually does.
Yeah, but like you said before, you transcend the idea where it's belief and it becomes knowing. I know for a fact I will never be out of money in the terms of manifestation because, well, to take an example from my life, going back like 5 years, I was unemployed on government benefits. I'm not sure what you call it over there, but basically the government was supporting me, but they were trying to force me into a job role that was destructive to me, to my essence. It just didn't vibe. It was completely decoherent. So I left that, I cut the benefits, and I wanted to test the law of manifestation or the law of attraction. So I did that. I went unemployed. I was making no money. And my only backup was volunteering for a charity shop at the time. And the deal was I worked 8 hours and I got £4 for lunch allowance. So that was my survival money. I was in a flat at the time because the disconnect between the benefits paying for the flat didn't quite catch up yet. But I was recently homeless before that, living in the woods. Another long story going back to 2012 and like awakening globally stuff. But my backup was working in this charity shop for £4 a day. And one of the important factors of learning how to manifest is believing and knowing that you're always going to have the money. So at first you're going to the shop and you start looking at objects to buy that cost a certain amount of money, but you don't have that money in physical format, but you carry it in your mind that you do. And eventually reality catches up. And it took 2 weeks for that to catch up for me. So within 2 weeks, I was starting to find money on the ground. Within another week, the money on the ground that I found was doubled. Another week, and it was doubled again. And I spent the entire start of the summer going through this. And it got to the point where I was walking to the shop and finding £20 note every single day on the way to the shop.
Wow.
Out of nowhere. And it was, in most cases, it was crisp, brand new £20 notes. And this was on a street. It's just off the center of the city in a commercially profitable area where university students would often be. So there was probably 10,000 people walking up and down this street every day. And I was the one finding money every single time. And at one point, I actually found £370 in one day.
Wow.
Just by knowing. It starts off as a belief system that you can bring this money to your reality, but when you catch up to that, you can manifest whatever you want. And my point was, when you know that, you start to control your reality. Your reality bends to you. And that's the purpose of the orgonite. to enable you to realize how much power you have to control your reality.
That's just so cool.
It is.
Huh.
And I think that kind of rounds out what I see Orgonite's potential as being. I mean, there's another 10 hours of conversation on top of this, but
Well, don't worry, we can break it up into segments. But I think we're gonna need all that time, man, because getting your head around the power of this is just incredible. It's led to some really, really good conversation, I'd have to say.
that's one of the driving influences behind my work, is to make something that is so strong and so tangible that everybody can feel it. And I would have liked to have gotten into that by showing different images and giving you a walkthrough on how to feel it and how to use it. But maybe next time.
Yeah. I think, to be very honest with you, this is something that we need to sit with and let our brains process for a while.
Yeah.
Because I'm in like total awe, and I don't think I'd ask the right question to you.
No, you had some good questions.
With the baseline of knowledge now there, I think that it'll just make the rest of it even more productive. And I know that before we did this cast, I've been in contact with 8th Center for a couple months now, and we talk on a regular basis, just go back and forth on a couple things. But how we started out was he showed me some stuff, and frankly, like I'm not all that, I like to approach things with an open mind, but like even knowing the things I know and having experienced the things I experienced, when he sent me some photos of the Orgonites and kind of was suggesting that the effect would come off the photo, like, I mean, I couldn't help but feel slightly skeptical, but then I washed myself of that quickly, very quickly, and I just said, you know what, let me pay this the attention that it deserves, because obviously, he takes this very seriously and, whatnot. And right off the bat, I could tell you, just as a matter of fact, just simply from the images alone, there was a difference. And that now these things become very hard to kind of talk about and describe, because these are subtle energy things, and there's no real sense that you have that we have words to, necessarily articulate it properly. But there was just an overall kind of sensation nod, so to speak, just off of the images alone, that there was something more to it that was worth exploring. And he had actually taken his time to, step me through how kind of even just the images, let alone the actual Orgonites themselves, could be helpful. And just from having a discussion with him on that, I was able to have a couple of experiences that I don't think I would have been able to really have otherwise. And I found that super, super intriguing. And here we are talking about it more today. But, I do think for most of our viewers and everything, getting to at least understand the basics of what it is, what the energies involved are, sort of the mechanisms of how it works. And we've touched on all those things today. I think that's an awesome point to jump off at, for us to come in swinging maybe next time. So you could show, do a little show and tell on it, and, see what benefits the viewers could get out of it too.
Yep. Well, we call it subtle energy, but it's not unpowerful either.
No,
there's a lot of power in it.
I call it subtle energy because it's not tangible in the way that normal, like, if you're eating food, you could sit there and be like, oh yeah, it's got a really nice balance of sweet and salty, and it kind of has a note of coffee and chocolate, or whatever, and with like some apricot on the rear end of it, or something to that effect. Like there's a way to like experience that and articulate it properly. What a subtle energy is it's not something that's necessarily easily described. That's what makes it subtle, is because it transcends sort of your normal five senses.
33 senses.
Yeah, well, the five senses that are able to be articulated.
Well, that's the thing. Most of the other senses, you can articulate them quite easily. What temperature is your room right now? That's still a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it makes a big difference in how
it's a subjective one too, because have you ever noticed how, like, well, I know I'm going to talk in Fahrenheit because I only speak imperial really, but isn't it funny how like a 50-degree day or something like that, it feels freezing in the summer and it feels warm in the winter. Like, maybe that's just coming from my climate, I'm saying that, but like, it's subjective too.
Yeah. All the senses are, and that's the thing. Most of the clairsentience, and most people will speak of clairvoyance, clairaudience. All of the senses that we have in a physical format, they also have a metaphysical format that is more subtle, underlying all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like your ability to feel the temperature in the room is going to change if there's a ghost in the room as well.
That's true. That is true.
They're all part of the same conversation. It's an exchange of energy between you and the ether, and awareness of it. But yeah,
this is awesome. I want to thank you. What's going on, everyone? This is a really cool subject, guys. This was awesome. So I want to thank everybody for being here, man. This is so cool. 8th Center. Congratulations, man. This is so cool. Yeah, I had to pop in, guys. I know we pre-taped some of this stuff, but got to come in and talk about it a little bit. I mean, I was just blown away. Like, half the time you see me like kind of speechless and not knowing exactly what to say, but man, that was that's awesome. I can't wait to do the second and third one, man, and then go through all the organized stuff and really learn a little better. And then and then we could do a lot more, and then go right into the Atlantis stuff in with Ace Friend. That would be amazing. So yeah, there's a lot here, man. So what I'm going to do is as we record these things, I'll put them on the Monday so that we can all get to know them and get going. And we have some other things planned for Thursday, and I believe one for Friday this week. Really cool interviews coming up too, guys. But this one really cool. So Joe said he'd pop on and say hi as well in just a few minutes. So let's see it. Just checking with everybody. What's going on, Ian? So yeah, everybody's here today, man. Really cool. Yeah. Everybody liked it. 8th. Check that out. Nice. I want to share with you guys real quick. We have some new members today. I just want to show you them right now. So we put out some membership thing for today, and some people got in on it. So, and I also want to thank Timothy right here, man. He came in and subscribed to the channel as well. So, and he became a member. Thank you for that. I really do appreciate it. Sorry I couldn't say something in the middle of the program. So, yeah. Really cool, man. Yeah. Ian missed most of it. But Ian, you have to go back and watch it. Maybe listen to it on the ride, man. It's a wild ride through some stuff, man. There's a lot more information out there, though. So, yeah, the universe is always supporting you. You know, it's funny how that works. Just like you were saying, when you needed the money, it would come to you, things like that. Or, you know, I always find that that's the way it's happening here is, you know, we need some help with some people, and they come in and help us out. Everybody in the chat's been so awesome, man. And then everybody who watches the channel has been that way as well. And everything kind of works out that way. And the information's always flowing so that we always get more and more and more of it so that we're all informed. So I love that. Yeah. We just did Brendan's episode, man. Man, I wish that mic worked better or the lag wasn't there, but that still turned out to be one heck of a great episode, man. I think in some ways it helped us, and it allowed him to not let me talk over anything where he can get all of his information out. I think that was really awesome. Yeah, he's worked on this for years. I'm sure he'll tell us exactly how many years, but it's been quite a few. Yeah, you're welcome, man. I'm trying. You know, a lot of us are out here trying to get this stuff out any way we can. And, you know, I'm just glad that everybody's receptive to it and we can take in all the information. We don't get stuck in a box. Let's see. Part 2, talk more about Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon? I'm sure that's a proper name, and I just don't know it. Oh, royal cubit speed of light? Possibly. Oh, he says it'll be in part 2, so it's absolutely no. Also, guys, I threw a couple emojis in there. I switched one out. Joe, I updated his, and then I also put a troll emoji in there. We recently had some people in the chat like last week that were kind of trolling, so I thought it was absolutely hilarious to put a green troll in there. We're going to have to make one for the woo, because we definitely go there. So let's get some more comments. Yeah. I'll take that as the big guy up there. Yeah, they're afraid to teach the real stuff in school. That's a fact. Here we go. Oh, yeah, we added some new ones in there. I love emojis, man, playing with them while things are going on. This one I tried to stay out of a little bit on because it's a serious topic, man. I didn't want to jump all over it. Yeah, Negative Res Coils contacted me. Hopefully everything's good with your setup and you got your 5G all working with you. Hopefully he'll be on by next week. We'll set up something either live or we'll do a pre-tape thing. But, man, he's got a lot of cool experiments. If you guys haven't checked up on his channel, he's got the wine bottles over there that he makes Tesla coils with, and he's putting, what do I say, salt in there or something to grow crystals. So, absolutely love that. There you go. Yeah, throw him up. Joel emoji, amazing. That's so cool. Oh, man. There you go. Look at that. He gets in on the picture, man. Throws in some holes. Nice. Man. I can't get over the fact that it's, I knew the Egyptians weren't the person before. I didn't realize it was the Atlanteans. I thought that was a big step in understanding what's going on here. I think everybody else thought it. I just didn't think that way. But you know what? I'm there for it. And it seems like it's the right way to go. So. Yeah, I gotta watch. Man, you may have to change your channel, Dave. Man, like too close to a different word. Yeah, dude. I can only tell you, man. There's a lot of different things that are coming up right now with people's channels and stuff, and what they're looking at versus what we're looking at. I just had a chance to talk to DK Diker's channel, and oh my god, dude, he's got some cool stuff. Corona motor. Man, I can't even say the name of it. It starts with a K, but it looks like the testicle with the rod down the center. I always get the name wrong on it, and I don't dare pronounce it here. But he's got that as well. He's got a bunch of other projects, and he's just like us, man. So Nick is rocking it out over there. So that was pretty cool, man. And I put the previews up for the members on the channel, so you can get a couple minute preview of what we're going to be doing coming ahead. So I'll keep doing that. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah. Well, we're reaching out to the globe, man. Ireland, we got a lot of people in England. I think it's South Africa as well. We also have Australia. So, and I think the Netherlands. So yeah, we got quite a big, running around the globe here, man. Where are the Atlanteans underground? Well, that was kind of hinted to in the episode, wasn't it? We were kind of hinted that they were hanging out underground. Whether that was a Gartha or not, we'll have to find out. But yeah, that's what we were kind of hinted to, that they're in inner Earth. So does that mean inner Earth, or is it just a little bit in? Or, I mean, we'll have to find that out. Let's see. So I got a question for you. You say the begin in Africa. So, oh, man, give me a second. I just lost my train of thought right there. So was Atlantis in Africa, where they say that big circle thing was? Is it there, the one you keep seeing on the news and stuff, where you see the valleys going down to it, and it goes off, and it goes right over by the Pillars of Hercules or something, that right there, coming out of, what is it, the Mediterranean? So I'm kind of curious to see, is it there? Yeah, nice. Then the Eye of the Sahara. So it is where everybody says it was, huh? Nice. But if it was, yeah, I was going to say, if the first city, because it would have had to be multiple cities after that, right? So was it a global civilization as well? That's kind of curious. Oh, we got some controversy. He says he doesn't believe it. Atlantis is anywhere near Africa. I have a feeling it was everywhere. There you go. 100% global. So how, you know what I mean? Yeah. So where's their, you know what I mean? Where's their city? Where did it start? Yeah. Everywhere. Started in Africa, ended up everywhere. Maybe that's the way it was. I'll be honest with you. If they have the tech to be hiding in inner Earth, they were obviously global and everywhere. So, yeah. The planet was evolved. Yeah. You know, there's too much information here. Way too much information. You start seeing that wire coils and stuff are carved into rocks. Yeah, there's too much information here. When you start looking at hieroglyphs everywhere, all over the world, and they start matching, yeah, they were doing more than what we thought they were. I think science is 100% wrong on cavemen, you know what I mean, being not that long ago. I don't buy that at all. Yeah. Yeah, the history's hidden. I still think then that they came from that planet in between Jupiter and Mars, but that's my opinion on that. So, and I think that there was a signal that was given out. If you guys do not know this, Oumuamua, whatever you want to call that asteroid thing that came in here, it's on the Black Pyramidium in the Egyptian Museum, right on the right side of it. You'll notice the bottom part where it goes like this and then comes up like that. It's absolutely matches. It's the same thing. It's like a precursor to the end times. It comes out. The only time they were able to see it was the Day of the Dead. So basically, when the Aztec calendar ran out, that was the day that you could see it behind the sun. And yes, there was eclipses at that time. So, yeah. Was a ship. Well, that's interesting because they talk about it and it's on there. Tiamat. Yeah, you know, just a personal opinion. Nice. So there was a planet that was smashed into the Earth. There was definitely a planet smashed into Tiamat, that's for sure. Well, it's a moon anyway. Yeah. Better you saying it to me because I always mess that up. Venus changing position. Well, that would be interesting. Oh, there we go. Now we're getting into it. Joe, what's up?
Holy shit. Thanks for joining me for dinner.
That was a great episode, wasn't it, man?
Oh man, that was so much fun to do. You know, Eighth Sinner is a remarkable guest, great guy to talk to, and watching it back was just it was probably even a little bit more like humbling and sobering than it was in the moment. You know, it's so many interesting points that we touched on.
Yeah. Well, I love the part at the end. We haven't even scratched the surface yet. Like, we haven't even started yet. It was like 2.5 hours.
Right. You're like, oh, it looks like it's been about 2 hours. He's like, you know, where should we end this? He's like, we haven't even begun. Yeah, no, that's a lot to be excited for, man. Like, I think that once he gets into, you know, the real nuts and bolts of it, not how it works, but more how it can be used. I think that that's really where it's going to take off to the next level. And then he had mentioned his friend with the past lives from Atlantis and stuff. And, you know, I mean, all that stuff is just like, it's just super fascinating. It's going to make for some great, you know, stories and knowledge, you know, to bring to the table for everybody.
Well, we were just talking Tiamat, you know, the planet between Mars and Jupiter, you know, where everybody comes from originally, things like that. So he said he got some information coming that way. So that it's always fascinated me.
Yeah, it is very interesting stuff. And even, you know, recently, you had that interview, you know, with Jesse and Dave, right? And they went into it, and he was saying how, you know, a lot of the way that he got into it, the paths that he found, and the information that he got was based on these types of experience, like from external source. So, you know, every time I sit there and I say, you know, sometimes I like hear the stuff we talk about and hear like some of the stuff that I even say in my own experience, and I'm like, man, that's like far out and stuff. But then I'm like, but you know, this is a shared experience that so many people are having.
Oh, it is. It
Right,
definitely
right.
is.
So pretty cool. Yeah. So I'm gonna you know, eat my cheeseburger while we talk. I figured that would be entertaining in itself. I was like, yeah, share dinner with everybody. I could either be a half an hour from now, or I could just sit there and take a bite of a cheeseburger. Yeah, whatever.
Not a problem, Joe.
I
Not a
make my own
problem.
McDonald's at home.
Oh,
That's
very cool.
yeah, out of the dehydrated onions, so they get nice.
Nice. Yeah, I like putting those onions in there, putting a little cover over and put some water in there. Just let them simmer down a bit. Yeah. So, now you're getting me hungry.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. And then I wrap them up in the parchment paper to give them like that, you know,
Oh,
the bag taste.
yeah. God, just don't miss anything on there. Wow.
No. Oh, that's a good trick with egg sandwiches too, for anybody interested. If you ever wanted a good egg sandwich that tastes like it came from the deli, wrap it in parchment paper for like 10, 15 minutes.
Is that kind of like butcher block paper when you roll it in there with your meat and stuff?
Same story. Yep. I love that stuff too.
Oh.
Yeah, so you have some really interesting guests coming up this week too. I mean, this is just jam-packed, man.
Oh, dude, it's like everybody is like coming on now and super fascinating, man. Yeah, I was just telling everybody earlier about DK Diker's channel and stuff like that, and he has a Corona motor. There's some cool conversation going around that. Negative Res Coils is going to hook up with us and do this as well. We also have Inventor, and I forget the name. I want to say Inventor 3 is coming on, and he's going to be here live Thursday. And we're going to go over that. He has all kinds of Tesla coil stuff. He's working on a little bit of over Unity on it.
Very cool.
He's isolated systems and things like that. And he also put a rod in the ground and put two Tesla coils, one on top of each other, and was pulling energy out of the ground that way.
No way. Just the Tesla coils and the rod, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah.
Exactly.
Let me tell you that was amazing when I saw it. It was like, and he did it years ago, like way before I ever did. So yeah, some of these things, man, it's like the right time in history. It's exactly where we're at. And then with everybody sharing, we're getting that extra piece of the puzzle that we normally don't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing, man.
Well, you know, if you don't have a platform that openly talks about this stuff and you have that experiment, I'd be super reluctant to put it out there, because I would feel like, oh, you know, without like a supporting community, without like other people doing the kind of same work to show it and everything, like people are just going to break my chops about it, or maybe somebody would knock on my door, or like, you know, I wouldn't know what to think, but I would feel like it wouldn't go over well. So then why do it, right?
That's just the opposite here, though.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. You've created it, man.
Everybody out there is like in the middle of a project. Like they're like 80 to 90% done, and they need that last little bit of information to get there. And I think sometimes, like, you know, you need that final part where somebody understands the chemistry of something. You need that final spot where, you know, where the voltage goes or how to control it a little better. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this channel is about, man. They come on, they learn that last little bit. They get the information. So if you got it and you're not done yet, don't stress on that. We just, you know, tell us what it is you're doing, what's going on with it. You know what I mean? And there's going to be somebody in the chat who's way smarter than us that knows the answer right before we even say anything.
That's it, man. Like, and there's big time problem solving coming up here, and really the greatest appreciation that I have, you know, because of where I'm coming from in my perspectives and everything, is how, you know, you're really taking a marriage of, the physical and metaphysical and the science aspects and the spiritual aspects, and showing that all these things are interconnected. And they always have been, and it's always been known, but it's like been purposefully lost or conveniently lost or hidden or whatever you want to say about it. And it's only now that it's really all coming, tied up into a nice, neat little package again.
That's because they like to take big words and make separation with people and things like that. And they don't realize that everything around us is energy. Like, we literally are in the sea of energy and we don't know it. And the more awareness you have of it, the better off we're going to be. I think the bigger thing is, man, it's like coming to the Holy Grail and finding out what it is. That's what's going on here. We're getting back to who we were. We may have had everything wiped at one time or whatever, or we weren't taught it. But now we're getting there.
So, and like, it sounds like a conspiracy, but it's actual truth. There was a point in time where, the science and heaven, so to speak, were considered one thing. And then there was a very purposeful divide between church and science, where, they basically said science stick to the earth and theology stick to the heavens, but you had to keep the science out of the heavens. No. And, that was the law of the land. It was by design. And here we are, without anybody to sit there and stop us. You find it out again very quickly.
Yeah. By the way, 8 says Liz is her name. It's going to come up and talk to us about Atlantis.
I'm sorry, Liz?
Liz.
Very cool.
So I want to make sure.
I'm really looking forward to that, man. And that's going to make for a hell of an episode, man. That's like as hard as it is for me, I'm just going to shut up and just let it happen.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Joe. I think we're going to have our jaws on the floor with all of this stuff. Like, just trying to, listen and understand it and put it into terms. And then we're going to have to watch it several times back.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard in the moment to know which details are the one with the emphasis on it. Especially because when it becomes so much, it's sometimes hard to know which lead to be like, oh wait, that's what they were saying just in the moment. Watching it back is the greatest value of all this.
Yeah. Yeah, he said Liz is gonna blow our minds, man. I can't wait. That's so cool.
Oh yeah.
Joe, as hard as this is sometimes to do everything and do experiments and then do live shows and stuff, dude, I honestly think I'm the most fortunate person on the planet. I get to hear everything. I get to be right in the middle of it. You know what I mean? I get all the information, no matter where it comes from, and everybody's willing to share and be nice. And the chat's so supportive of everybody who comes on. So, like I said, I feel like the most fortunate person on the planet.
Yeah, and in a way you are. And, I think that the direction you take it is super unique in the way that not only are you pulling the Art Bell aspect of it, where it's like, hey, doesn't matter if it sounds batshit crazy, come on, tell your story. Come on, explain what you're up to, what you're doing, and it's not going to be a judgmental type of thing. The story is just as important as the truth in some cases. I think it's important that people that watch us also know that about us. Like, we talk about things oftentimes that are skeptical. There's certain things we talk about that it's like, how much of it do you even know or agree with? You're just trying to live in that moment and embrace what's going on to see what you could really get out of it, whether you subscribe to it or not, right? So there's a lot of those circumstances, but then you're in the lab and you're actually putting in the groundwork, boots on the ground to show a lot of the things that we're talking about. And that's where this takes that next level. It goes beyond just the whole, let's talk about wild stuff. So,
well, that's kind of the point, huh?
Yeah, man. But you're the only one doing it. That's the thing, because most platforms are either all just showing experiments with no explanation, or all just explaining theory with no experiments, or just talking to other people and creating like it as like an influencer type of vibe. And you're taking all of those dynamics and smashing it into one, and that's what's missing. So kudos to you, man. I always put my hat off the amount of work that you put in, and all our viewers and everything that they bring to the table. It's really incredible.
Yeah. I love that uniqueness about it. Sometimes YouTube doesn't know what to do with me. Just pick a lane, maybe, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like most inventors, I can't. I have to see it all. I have to know it all, and I have to try to bring it together. One day they'll look back at this and say, okay, they put it back together again. Can they keep it that way?
Yeah, well, when it comes to this subject, it's much more difficult to find something that isn't relevant or related than it is to, you know, like that's the hard thing. Like everything could be tied right back into it, which is a super fascinating thing, but it makes it so broad that, like you said, pick a lane. What lane do you want to be in? The answer is all of them.
Yeah. Well, we were watching that thing about about the guy with the glasses. That he put the glasses on and they could see different fields around people. And you could see the magnetic field going around person, the aura of them, things like that. And it was like Eighth was talking about in there, you're the energy in the room, right? So it would be represented as your body wouldn't be the thing that you're looking at. It's the energy that's everywhere around where your body sits. So that was so cool, man. I'll tell you this right now. If I can get a set of those glasses that I could see every field in the world and see how everything's interconnected, man, everybody's life would change because you'd have so much more respect for everything around you, knowing that it's just like you. It's energy. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, it's like that the video that I shared with you with the camera setup that shows all of the different light refractions that occur that aren't apparent to your eyes. So it could actually show all of the pressure differentials that occur in atmosphere and in ether, which is cool. But I did an experiment today actually, and it was very subjective experiment. You know, you never have like an objective finding off of it. But what I did was I just took one of those coils, like Eighth Center was talking about, you know, like a S bifilar, right?
Okay.
And put it on top of an aluminum cap with a very pungent piece of shirt quartz. It's like flint, kind of, right? And put that in the center with two pieces of quartz on the outside, and then two neodymium magnets on two captive loop ends.
Okay.
What I did, you know, and that was all it is. That's it. It's just sitting on my desk, and I just lit a piece of incense and walked away from it. You know, and no matter what was going on, there's no breeze, no draft, no nothing. The smoke would travel directly over the path of the array, I'll call it for the purpose of this, and then it would go toward a certain point, come back around, and then accelerate itself up. And that was exactly what it did the whole entire time. And as it burned down the incense, it got further and further away in a different angle. So that would, under normal circumstances, dictate that the smoke would kind of do something else. No matter where it burned down, the incense went right back to the same spot and followed the same pattern.
Wow.
And that type of attraction and disturbance that becomes measurable. And what's interesting about smoke as a medium, a visual medium, right, for observation, is it's capable of upper dimensional movements.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. It's capable of going through itself and rolling over into itself and outside. Right. So those are upper dimensional movements. You could actually physically see some of the interdimensional movements that are occurring in certain different fields. Now, I know with stuff like you've done in the past, it's been hard to be able to get that reaction. In this case, it was kind of working, you know, but again, it's subjective because I could repeat it over and over again, but at the same exact time, like, what's the measure, right?
Well,
Who's to say where it wouldn't go otherwise? I moved it out and it was going straight up, but whatever. Like, that's still pretty subjective.
I think speed has a lot to do with it, Joe. Back then, I was just blasting things with fog and not paying attention to the beat rate or anything like that, or how things pulse. And I've learned when we're looking at all these things with the lenses and stuff like that, a lot of that matters. Camera speed rate, things like that are really something that has to be taken into account when you start doing this kind of stuff in order to see it right.
Absolutely. And even the piece of incense, it has a beat to it. It has a cycle rate. In fact, like if you ever observed a piece of incense burning, it makes little spirals, little swirls as it goes up because it's burning at that certain rate. So it's all relevant to it.
It reminds me of that experiment. You ever see it? They took this, I don't want to call it a chain, but it's like little balls on a string. And it's like little beads you'd wear. You know what I mean? So they took it and they pulled it out of this jar real quick and went like this and whipped it. And then it came up and went out, right? And everybody says, oh, it's this, it's that. And they kept talking about this and the corner right here as it comes up. Not one of them thought of putting smoke next to it. Not one of them realized, hey, if you put smoke to it, you'd actually see the vacuum you're creating right there with what you just did. And they went back and forth in different channels about this and not once figured it out. It was literally a vacuum right there that was, coming up just like that. The
key to the smoke is a billow.
Yeah.
It's just a billowing smoke. It really can't have any sort of push behind it. It's just going to kind of be naturally emanating and billowing.
Yeah. I'm going to have to try that. All right. More experiments.
Yeah. Chalk it up.
That's right.
How's your ankle feeling?
Oh, dude, my ankle is so much better, Joe. Thank you for asking.
Good. I'm glad.
It was like normal ankles are like this. Mine was like this. It was so bad. It looked like Fred Flintstone's foot. It's gone down, man. The doctor gave me some stuff to knock it down quite a bit.
Good.
And it knocked down the swelling, but like since it was so big for a while and the fact of how I fell, there's some like, I don't want to call them ligaments or whatever, but whatever in there kind of pulled apart a little bit. And it's just taking a little while. So I'm kind of still gimping a little bit, but I can now get around.
It takes time, but like you said, if it's not bothering you and you can get around, get your ass back in the lab to work, bro. Yeah, I know. Yeah. You're right. Well, you had a cane you could have waved at me, and that would have supported your role as the old man. But,
No, it's okay, because I had planned tomorrow to get in here and cut all the wood and put it all together and assemble this thing. I've been waiting myself, okay? Getting over there and messing with something with a bad foot, not a good idea. So
No, not at all. And, rest is needed. That's what it boils down to, and everybody needs it, whether it's because you busted up your ankle or, just because you spent a little too much time doing crap you needed to and not enough time, like actually taking the load off. The good rest it's critical and needed. And you need to be able to recognize when that's the case and have the wherewithal to actually commit to doing it, because most people get stubborn,
Wow.
So good on you for realizing and still maintaining what you can do. That's because that's the best you can do.
Yeah. Well, it took a lot out of me, man. I wasn't able to get up to the whiteboard like I normally do. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. You would visibly see I'm hurting bad if I tried that. So I had to watch where my cats were when I went in the house, because that was a whole mess. Dude, I literally took a, what do they call it? A little step stool that was folded up, and it was like my cane for a couple days. It was that bad, dude. Yeah.
No, that's awful.
Yes. I couldn't put pressure on it.
Have to get your step stool some tennis balls. So get the slide going on.
And they really called me the old man, huh?
Yeah, that's it. It's just ironic that the dog got you, and then you have to walk around the house looking for the cat to trip you up.
Yeah.
It then goes to jump and give you one of those leg rub deals, and that's all it's gonna take.
Yeah. Dude, it wasn't, you know what? The dog was just happy to play and whatever.
Yeah.
That's more of the owner just kind of not realizing the situation and saying, hey, there's somebody kind of walking by doing laps around the track. I might want to just hold them for a minute. You know what I mean? That's
Listen,
all.
I have a dog, and he's great off the leash, and I take him out to play ball and stuff like that. And guess what? People come sometimes, walking their dog themselves or just walking by in general. And just because, I don't want that to happen because my dog is friendly, I call my dog back and I hold him until they're gone.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's frankly that simple, but what are you going to do? And it's to avoid exactly that situation.
Because it's not whether the dog knows you and you're happy with how the dog level is. It's the person that doesn't know the dog, and you're putting off maybe scared vibes, or maybe, apprehension is probably the better word. You know what I mean? And the dog picks up on that right away.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And unfortunately, it's one of those situations too, where even if the dog was running at you and you're like cool with it and you're fine, but if you didn't see it coming, it could startle you, no matter how you feel in that moment otherwise. And just that act of being startled could be enough to bring it to the next level. It's silliness.
Telling me I'm wearing slippers.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, man. I get out there like everybody else, man, and wear my shorts and my hooded sweatshirt and get working out there, man. I go 4 laps around this thing, man, every time.
Nice.
So it's like an hour worth of walking. So just because I don't get exercise like normal, it's not the same when you're retired or semi-retired, I should say. You don't get that same amount of exercise. You don't have to go out for work. You don't have to go out to do this thing. So you have to get some form of exercise. So,
yeah, well, I'm not retired, and I can attest to that because I work from home. So
there you go.
Trust me, when you work from home, provided you have groceries and toilet paper, you don't really ever have to leave. That's it. It's like, oh, this is where I am.
Yeah. He said, oh, hemp socks. Yeah, no, wouldn't go in there. I do live in California. Yeah. So funny, man. Oh, man. Well, this is cool, Joe. I appreciate you coming on, man, and doing this.
I appreciate you having me while I'm eating my cheeseburger. That was good. Like I said,
Yeah.
I was gonna just polish it off and then come on, and I was like, yeah, fuck it. They could eat dinner with me. That's fine.
Right on, man. Well, I want to thank everybody for watching the show today, man. Everybody in the chat, you guys have been totally awesome through this whole thing, man. And 8th, looking forward to seeing you soon, man. I'm sure Joe's going to contact you. We'll hook up, and we're going to go.
I would really love to get since we're aiming for Mondays, we want to get that part 2 recorded immediately. Have part 3 lined right up. That way we could get these Mondays together, and I know I'm looking forward to it. So,
oh yeah,
I can imagine that everybody out there that enjoyed it, is definitely going to be looking forward to it too.
Well, once they watch it back and things like that, and they realize, you know what I mean, the information's good, we're going to get a lot more people watching it too. So,
hell yeah,
absolutely. He says, "Thank you."
You're welcome. Thank you, man, for taking the time. I know it's a lot to do.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. With that said, Mike Faraday, hello. He came in just at the end. Guys,
yeah, Mike, this is a rewatch, buddy. You start from scratch on it.
He'd probably be there the whole time.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Have a great night. Thank you.
Peace and love, everybody. Good night.